Magic Without Fears Hermetic Podcast. I'm your host, Frater R.C. For more and exclusive episodes, visit magicwithoutfears.com. Thank you for your support. Welcome to Magic Without Fears Hermetic Podcast. I'm your host, Frater R.C. For more and exclusive episodes, visit magicwithoutfears.com. Thank you for your support.
Well, hello there.
Hey, Frater.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm good. It's cold as fuck over here, but
how's the situation on my side? Yeah, it's not very different, I assure you. So.
Yeah. So what time is it there now?
Right now, it is 3:37 p.m. And you?
3:37. 9:36.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why it's been so hard to keep up with you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially since I'm up like pretty early every morning, and often I'm asleep by 10 at night here. So
right.
That's like, or wait, no, not quite. Yeah, I'm thinking more West Coast. Yeah. So how do they call IPAFS? Or are you gonna use mundane name?
Mundane.
People know your
know
mundane
my
name.
name. I openly share that.
Yeah.
The IPAFS.
All right.
Yeah, that really hasn't been, in my own mind, completely legitimized just because certain rights haven't been tackled yet. So I don't cling to it, but it's fine for a moniker for now.
I see most names as heuristic anyway, just meant to get us to the next place.
Right.
Yeah. No, I would love to use my mundane name more openly, but my, it's family's protection and stuff.
Exactly. No, I understand that.
Yeah. So what's the theme? What are we going to talk about? Self-initiation or?
Yeah, of course.
Orders? Drawing?
Yeah, I have a lot going on, so you pick and choose.
Well, I don't know. You want just, share a bit of your story, maybe first. I'd love to know more about how you got into it. How old were you when it started? Were you a young guy?
Well, I don't
like
think
me?
I was nearly as young as yourself. You
that was fucked up.
You got started pretty early. I think I had a collection of experiences that I didn't realize were setting me up for hypnosis, but in my family particularly, we've always been exposed to those sort of metaphysical things, whether it be tarot, my mom placed a lot of importance on our dreams growing up, encouraged to explore the arts and those more receptive things of ourselves. Yeah, she was very free-willed in that way, and my father was not the same way. Yeah, that's an entirely different episode if you want to get into that. Very.
Should we do an episode on father issues?
Maybe. I don't know. I might have issues. Who knows? But he's certainly.
I'd invite my dad to get on, except people would probably end up liking him more than me. He's very likable. Everyone loves him.
He's really charismatic like that too. Enigmatic.
Yeah,
maybe reptilian.
Yeah. It's this Irish-Italian thing. Oh my God!
Yeah,
reptilian.
He's sort of a callous being, but a chemical engineering savant. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chemical engineering. So he's going to invent the recipe or cure for the zombie plague.
We'll see. Before plastics could conduct electricity, he was the front runner of inventing such properties and materials like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't inherit any of that talent. But, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really inherit my dad's carpentry either.
Hey, I think you're doing pretty well.
I think I value.
Yourself. But,
Am I?
I would
thank
say
you.
so. But
I try.
That's all we can do. But yeah, so with my mother involved, we experienced a lot of clairvoyant sort of experiences growing up. I can remember when I was 6 years old, I was at the family farm, and I was hunting for toads, which is something I would do all the time there when I was little. And from behind me came my Uncle Bill, and I thought that was very strange. I hadn't seen him in a while, and we had a little conversation, and he went into the carport, and I went to follow him, and he was just gone. He vanished. I guess 2 weeks prior, because of the extent of his cancer, he had actually hanged himself in one of the barn houses. The family found him. But no one told me because of my age. So when I told everyone I just had a conversation with Uncle Bill, you can imagine their alarm and shock. But very clear for me. But because of certain experiences like that, as well as some other overwhelming ones, I sought out anything metaphysical I could to help alleviate it, whether it was self-management or otherwise, which led me down some strange avenues. There was the whole Reiki craze, and when I was in my close to 20s, that was very big for me, but I had a pretty negative experience with the person who taught it to me.
What year was that?
Probably, oh my gosh.
Was that like the early 2000s, the Reiki craze?
Well, it actually had a revival where I am in Columbus. And so Columbus goes through waves of light worker scenes, if you will. That's the extent of the existence here, metaphysical wise. So I went through that. And then,
you guys have a pretty big Irish festival
we do,
there.
Yeah, the Dublin Festival's great.
Yeah. I almost went to that one year. I was there working at a convention.
We have a few things like that here to offer.
Yeah.
But, from there,
cool.
I tumbled into voodoo gnosis, some Haitian voodoo practice.
Love Haitian voodoo.
Right. And then I still have some friends.
What did you ever do any, like, mountings and stuff? You ever
There have been light experiences of that, definitely, which are traumatizing if you don't have a guiding person there to help you with those experiences or anything like that. So I quickly got out of all that. I just didn't think that I had maybe the spiritual integrity to pursue that any further. And obviously, there aren't any houses around my area that could ever take me further with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you sort of got to go there, and it's not an easy tradition to get into.
Right. I guess.
Did you read Maya Daren's account, Divine Horseman?
No, but I've seen her film work.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Oh man, that would be good. I mean, she had Joseph Campbell help her put the book together afterward. But I think she was the first Westerner ever initiated into the traditions, the rural traditions.
Considering who she was, that does not surprise me. Yeah, you'll have to check out her film work. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't know she had
most
it.
of it's accessible on YouTube.
But yeah,
like
there wasn't.
Else, so.
Yeah, you see, I was out of the scene while the whole internet really exploded. So I'm from a pre-internet era. People always ask me to send them PDFs of documents. I'm like, I have printout.
Right, yeah.
I have notes that I like. We would hand transcribe a lot of notes like the old flying roll days. But you understand that you're an artist. You understand the value of hand transcription and
I
creation.
aggrandize it really. I would select it over
good word
anything. Yes.
Yeah. Though I do like those new shadows in. Those look really cool. It would be fun to do a hermetic one. Yeah. It might cut out here and there. We might have to stop and restart after like half an hour or something like that. Who knows? But there's the color your own book of shadows. So you just get the outlines and then you color it in and then write in your own stuff. I've noticed happening. So that's cool. I mean, it would be cool to have an elemental grade work for the people doing the lesser mysteries.
Been doing that for a long time too with the tarot cards, which is brilliant. I love that. That
with the tarot cards and everything.
Yeah, what a good idea.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
which I'm involved with them too. I don't meet with them.
So you're involved in what groups?
I am, yeah. I don't consider
altogether. You're involved in
local
Boda
meetings or anything. To be quite frank, the crowd that's there just they're a little conservative. I went to a meeting where we were just
conservative magically conservative or how conservative?
They're an older crowd. They come from a different time. I think I was the only one there that was maybe under the age of 70. They were.
Right. That was like me when I did the Freemasonry thing for one day.
We were discussing the death card, because they do these massive sort of expositions on the different tarot keys, and we were discussing sort of the symbolism of it in conjunction with the cube of space, because they were working from that angle as well and really diving into it, which was really interesting. Very fascinating meeting. And then they wanted some input from me, and I was discussing a lot of what Crowley had written about in the Book of Occult, and, the scorpion surrendering itself to flames and all of that, sort of yielding to the greater element for the sake of adaptation through atrophy. And they just, I don't know, they didn't know what to make of it. They didn't seem to be all about it.
Was it
excited about it?
Is that because of a lack of emphasis on alchemy or something like that?
I mean, they emphasize alchemy greatly. That's the whole purpose of the tarot, is exploring it through that medium. So I was a little confused. Maybe it was just a reference that was lost on them. I don't know. But whatever the case, I didn't feel like maybe that was the right fit group-wise for me. I still value the material. All of the tarot work, I think, is extremely important. The Book of Tokens is brilliant. I love it. Yeah, they were maybe not for, or I was not for them. How about that? Right. Which seems to be the only,
or that group
resource,
at least.
So, moving on. They do, yeah.
Well, at least they have something, I'm in general, I try to, like, my position in general is, the more resources, the better. I think it's a unique spirituality that for some people is probably the only real way, and if people don't have options, then they're in a pickle. They might end up, going Griffin.
A person online that has been reaching out to me because Griffin is extending that presence to my neck of the woods. And for whatever reason, this person thinks it would be a good idea if I would help welcome them in and be a part of that. And I think you can assume where my interest lay, and they're certainly not in that mess. So, how fun.
Yeah. So because you've been You've been
Correct,
doing
yeah.
Golden Dawn work, but by yourself. Yeah. I think that's what's really interesting for a lot of people, because I think self-initiation and the GD success stories are few and far
and it's hard to
between.
put a metric on what is actually a level of success. What defines that?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah,
I
mean, it's
you
kind
can
of
only you
scary
can
to
say,
have a
right?
group around you to confirm that for you. You've successfully passed through this ordeal or anything, so it's really all up to you. Which has been a really strange subjective sort of ordeal for me, but because you have to accept it too psychologically. This has happened to me. This has been done. I have accomplished this.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, I was also very young when I was trying to self-initiate. I was like 13 to 15. I seriously did the Craig work, But I would skip some things. I'd skip things like learning Hebrew or making my elemental weapons.
And it's so easy to rest on that.
And, next thing you know, you're meant to learn the supreme. Yeah. It just, I didn't understand why that would be important. And there's, he doesn't say, if you don't do this, don't move forward.
Well,
or maybe
in the
he does,
Cicero
but
book, it's fascinating. I love it because they often meet the end of the chapter with, it is paramount to do this in, such and such order, and for such and such effect, for such and such length of time. And those who proceed without actually doing the work, their holy guardian angel will be very aware of it and will refuse them. And whatever titles you seek to claim or whatever you declare yourself, no matter what it is, everyone around you will be very aware of what your reality actually is. Like they will be able to notice if you're fraudulent.
Yeah, well, you stand out like a sore. Anyone, people claiming grades higher than their grade, than where they're at.
Sure, I mean,
there's tells that the rest of us can notice.
I mean, I've met a few ipsissimus in my time, and per the definition, you should probably just be dead.
How did they get into a physical body? Yeah, you're not meant to be in a physical body. I think a lot of people don't realize that the Golden Dawn takes you up to Portal, and then Portal starts you in the second order, and then 5, 6 of these. You only, after that, there was still a Matutina grades, but the idea of grades beyond basic adepthood are so, theoretical knowledge test and learning ritual requirements and then an initiation, but there's not really much of an ontological change. Similar to like when you getting in the churches, in the Christian church, you get baptized, that's an ontological change. And then there's an ontological change if you become a priest.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
but there isn't one if you become a bishop, which is why you can actually take a regular priest and turn them into a pope in the dogma. That's interesting, hey?
You certainly know more about that than I do.
I find it fascinating. The comparisons between the esoteric mystery school worlds and the mainstream religion worlds, they're much thinner than people think, especially with, and that makes sense given the rampant, evangelical fundamentalism and its very strange take on these old religions.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, in the traditional theology, there's a lot of little insights and quirks that are fascinating if you actually look at them.
Yeah.
Studying those things raises really good questions. And it's pretty much all I'm interested in is good questions.
Right. Everything is syncretized in some way or another, I guess. Everything's parallel.
Maybe, yeah, it seems so.
Right.
To some extent. Then there's the randomness and the chaos. And So what was it like when you decided to start doing that? And has the Cicero book been your main resource?
It has been my main resource as far as the structured self-initiation went. Before that, of course, I started with Israel Regardie. I'm a massive fan of the Unfortunate. Despite some of her writings, yes.
Me too. She was my first love.
As a person, a little bit for my sexual orientation. But, so sometimes that's hard to get around.
Oh, no.
I understand.
Uh-oh.
That was a thought of the times. She's also writing in the 30s. Sure.
Yeah. At least she didn't have a book or a chapter on the Jewish problem, like Alice A. Bailey. I couldn't get past that when he told me I had to like write, they wanted me to write an essay on the Bailey book, and then I'm reading through one of the book they told me to read, and I think it was Esoteric Healing or Astrology, and I get to a chapter on the Jewish problem. I'm like, no. I just closed down. I'm like, never looked at her books again. I didn't know that might be slightly ad hominem, but
yeah, I'm with you. That would be the difficult one to swallow.
It's tough, yeah, especially since I was doing Hebrew and Aramaic studies in seminary at the time, and working with rabbis. So like, my interest was Jewish Christian dialogue. It's just like, oh, I can't be reading this. It just hit me so hard in the gut, and and I was starting my studies with Nicholas Goodrick Clark, who just put out his book on the occult roots of Nazism. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever read her again.
Problem for you, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I think the strengths of the Cicero book are well known. What would you say are maybe some of its weaknesses?
I think there are certain things
have attitude because it hasn't been updated in years. I don't think there's been an update based on responses to working it either.
I think there are some additions as far as the forward goes. I can't remember now exactly. I mean, I started working with the beginning of it, I think 10 months ago now. Maybe, no, longer than that. Because,
how long? So where would you place yourself in
oh my gosh, I'm just approaching neophyte ritual. Because I did the 0-0 initiation rite, which takes 3 months of preemptive work where you intimately get to know Themis, Mott, and Tame over the course of 3 different months.
That's
you invoke them religiously every night. It's about a 2-hour ritual per night, and it will.
I find that fascinating, especially since, like, traditionally you wouldn't do any work with that sort of energy until I think practice.
Right. So they admit to that too. That because you're doing it by yourself, I mean, you're essentially taking on the work of 10 officers. So there are certain elements that they have to acclimate you to bring in those forces and bring down the light in the stead of everyone else. So. So
that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, and you really have to do it. There, when you have the invocation go off so powerfully, the first time that you have to feel like you match that every other night. I mean, that's serious work, as you know. Once the bar is set so high, you can't really settle for anything less. So with that, you spend your first month with Themis, the Greek version of Mott, and the second month is Mott. I believe it was the third month was nothing but Tame, the Greco-European, and it's interesting. I mean, they have you do a visualization of your aura first and all of that after setting up the traditional sort of Golden Dawn ritual format. It's actually even more basic than that at the beginning, because of my own familiarity with some of the Golden Dawn tradition, I incorporated some of those more structured routines myself just to help me stay rigid, I guess, and stay structured. I'm a very routine person as it is. I'm ritualistic in every aspect of my life.
So me too.
It just furthers my own mind to do those things. But I don't know.
I mean, I've noticed a lot of people who are a bit more loosey-goosey with structure, and I think they do okay as well. As I've only noticed that, of course, in the rigid structures of a working order, which there's so much structure provided for you. I think you can afford to be a bit more wishy-washy.
Yeah.
But no structures. I think it's got to be important when you're doing it on your own.
I mean, I think a lot of people go into it kind of just wearing casual clothing or anything, and that's fine, but I feel like you need to have those designated sacred items. Like they're there with purpose to affect you. to induce that state of mind.
Absolutely.
And as basic and foundational as that might sound, I think a lot of people overlook it in modern practice. So I don't know, but after that 3 month.
Well, anytime someone offers to let me hold one of their talismans, I'm like, what? It's like mine are wrapped in silk and you don't even get to see them, much less hold them. It's like when people post pictures of the Rose Cross llama, and I'm like, what are you doing?
It's always show and tell, isn't it? You know, everybody wants to be an important magician or something like that.
Yeah, I never did. Like my early Wicca group, like my two buddies, you know, they would either, their rich would be for either like magical power or sexual favors, attractiveness to women, you know, and I would be like, I want to transform myself and cleanse myself of my issues, you know, and they'd be like, okay, that's a little chill. I'm like, okay.
You know, sort of a relevant story to that one. But when I was undergoing my master Reiki attunement, someone had joined the class for that ceremony under the impression that they would have Benny Hinn, you know, like that evangelist from the 90s or whatever. They would be able to blow people down with force from their hands, and that's why they were there. These
sort of like the Steven Seagal Aikido moves. You know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after that sort of preliminary work with those three forms of the goddess, you know, basically working with Cancellarius the whole time. She's the mediating force, as they portray it. It leads up to you eventually, for another 3 months, you have to start doing this, bringing down the light every night. You bring down the light into your ritual space. You know, from the east, of course, through this triangle of light in front of you, as well as a sort of a beacon or a facilitator of that force into you. And then you do your circumambulations and project that force into the center, into a central white triangle in the room. And this goes on for 90 days. You practice bringing that in and then also letting it exit. But you establish sort of that portal, that vehicle with the light in your space, so that when the initiation comes, it's not a massive waste of time. Because if you can't achieve that, then obviously it's not going to work. So it's a lot to take in. Actually, it was only supposed to be, I think, a 6-month process, but because of a couple times where I deviated, or, you know, I missed a step, or I didn't get to it that night because of some sort of extraordinary circumstance that distracted me from it, I ended up taking 9 months just to make sure that I was doing everything I needed to do. It shouldn't have taken that long, but it
sounds like me. Right, yeah. I mean, it just, it's good to hear that you care a lot about the outcome and the effects. I mean,
well, when you're already 6 months in, it's kind of like, well, yeah,
exactly.
But,
I think it's important to remember also, like, that we call it magical practice because we're always practicing. It's a practice. Yeah. It's like you're practicing it for those moments where you really need to do it later on, right? You know, and I don't know, that conviction that's what it's about is, I can only say it's served me well.
Yeah.
You know,
I think if you have an online presence of any sort, and you know, if you have the regalia and everything, people sort of assume that you have all the answers, but I am constantly reminded that I don't, which is great. It's good to be humiliated and humbled constantly and stumble, you know, which I do. I mean, things that I have written about or anything from a year or two ago, I just kind of look at now and maybe shake my
my God, yeah.
You know, kind of like when you look at drawings from childhood, like, oh my God. I hope no one sees that. You know, but that's been one of the biggest things about this for me, has been that learning that humility. And, you know, that's why I forced myself to do the extra 3 months, was I wasn't going to let myself have that shortcut, because I knew internally I had not yet achieved it. And, that's
right.
Sort of the acceptance of that moment and yielding to it.
Yeah. And when you have the chance, you think you'll still go through the physically if you ever are with a group that can do them?
Oh, you mean the next? You cut out for a moment. You're talking about proceeding. If you
have access to a group that you can do their initiations with, will you do them?
I don't think so yet. I think I will complete this course solitary first. After that, if a group were to happen to pop up, or if there's one I just don't know about that I discover, it would be interesting to revisit all of those initiation rites in a group setting, I think.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what I learned from that dynamic.
My idea is in 2021 to have a week-long event and do all the initiations every night for whenever. And yeah, it would be sort of open, like, hopefully we can get a good collection of adepti there to, very honored Frater BT described it as an adept Burning Man. I think he's got an extravagant mind, and I love his ideas. I was thinking more like 50 people in Hawaii.
Maybe not quite the Burning Man, but
yeah, maybe more like Magic on the Beach,
like
man.
That. Yeah. Well, you let me know.
Yeah.
And I listen to BT's
absolutely
esoteric nerd quite often too. Really love listening to that guy.
Yeah. Good time. Yeah. I listen. I've listened to most of them. It's hard for me because I knew Joe Shantz really well. Like he was a student and then a fellow adept and just one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. And losing him was brutal. Yeah. So that was tough. Yeah, me and BT are going to do the episode 100. We were talking about doing it while I'm in India for his wedding, but I might not make it. We'll see.
Well,
who knows? We might have to just do it old school. But yeah, the number 100 will be a ways off. Sure. I think.
India.
I'm going to do it under my real name too. Yeah. Because there's already a Frater R.C. So
I see.
I'm going to do it that way. It'll coincide hopefully with the release of my magical autobiography, which I put out briefly, but then the first draft was released instead of the final copy, and got a bunch of blowback from that. And I bitched at Amazon, and they're like, these things happen quite often actually, and apparently they fixed that since then. But I just felt okay, maybe it's a sign and not quite time, and then I decided to add some more things and blah blah blah.
Well, it's kind of disturbing that Amazon would say that happens often. Maybe
it was a very common glitch up until recently. Yeah, well, they don't really care. They're doing fine.
Right. So about the Frater R.C., do you think maybe it's time to adapt a new motto at this time in your life, or anything like that, or?
Well, I have another motto. I have my adept motto, which I got, which as an adept, you scry your own motto from the Akashic Records or Higher Genius or whatever you want to call it, and that's a powerful motto in itself, and that's what I live by. Both of them, right? One is for the lesser mysteries, one is for the greater mysteries, and I don't think I need any more names at this point. I mean, my as a child, after my parents' divorce, my mom changed my name like 3 times, because parents can change your name willy-nilly without any issue. They don't even need your consent, right?
Nope.
She was like, when you're 18, you can do what you want, but like once you've already diploma under that name and been accepted to university under that name, it's like, fuck it.
Oh, what a life.
She was very into the Caballerianism. Right. Yeah, it was a funny thing. The idea was she and my mom, me and my sister were all going to change our names, but she used me as sort of the guinea pig, and then she just played with different names for herself for like years. So I would get phone calls at the house. Yeah, I'd get phone calls, ask for different names. I'm like, sorry, no Georgia here. And I'd hang up. And then they'd call back, are you sure that Georgia, the astrologer? I'm like, you mean Joan? And she's like, they're like, oh, she used to be Joni, but I think she's Georgia now. I'm like, well, right. I haven't heard of that. So she experimented for like years until I was like 17 and my sister was like 14. And by then my sister was like, oh, I see what's going on here. I'm having none of it. So, and to this day, 20 years later, my mom's never changed her name.
It's funny you say that.
I know, right?
Father, my sister and I, our father, he did similar things with us, where he was an entrepreneur. We would receive IRS forms from the government, of course, addressed to our names, because for whatever reason unknown to us, he had changed the name of the proprietor to one of us, or we were suddenly.
Oh, that's like that sounds like sketchy tax evasion shit. Oh no.
Yeah.
Dear Lord. Well, I'm sorry. That sucks.
You kind of take responsibility for what you've done, so it usually catches up with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of things like that when we were kids too, and then some.
And then
some. Been a weird
that sounds exciting.
I'm sure you can relate. So.
Yeah, well, let's definitely do an episode on father issues. We'll get my my buddy Diener, who co-runs now Esoteric Ebooks with me, and he's got some father stuff. I think I talk about. We could do a little three-way. Yeah. Diener, the MC here.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, he's my bro. We met on Instagram and talked for like a year or two. When I left Vancouver on the last night, actually, we went to my storage and got out some crucial documents that I needed for my pilgrimage. And at the end, I just said, you know what, here you go. And I gave him the code to my entry to the storage and the key for the padlock. I was like, at this point, man, what do I have to lose? Right. There you go. So hopefully everything will work out well.
It will.
Yeah, there's like most of my library has been destroyed or stolen, but there's still like a good $100,000 worth of books in there. Especially since I've been gone for 14 years, the inflation on some of those books I have are just skyrocketed. I thought there was books I thought were worth like $500 or $1,000, but they're actually selling for like $2,500 or $5,000. I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh!
And,
indeed,
I never would have known that until I really got into a lot of this, especially books like the Geosophia. What's that?
I don't know that one.
So the
I don't know that one.
It's a dissertation. It's actually rather rare. There are 2 volumes of it, and it details the origin of Goetia, basically that entire branch of magic coming from the Greek.
Really,
the Greek studies and how it came to be in grimoire format. It's really fascinating stuff. I only have volume 1 because it's all I can afford. But maybe one day I'll get the second half. But it's an interesting read.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It's funny. I avoid a lot of the work that I guess people expect Adepti to do. I still feel like I haven't mastered the basics.
I love that. I love I think.
Yeah, no, I feel like why should I be doing I've done all the advanced adept work, of course, especially as a member of a very small group of Adepti in the days that I was in the order. So we did a lot of intense shit, especially with, TDL as the praemonstrator for the order. I mean, you couldn't wish for I lucked out fucking hardcore.
Right.
I mean, there was bit sour with the sweet, but I always saw, zinc as just like, what can I say? He's the lemon in the hot whiskey.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm fighting a cold, so I'm dosing myself with hot Irish whiskeys.
Not at all.
I hope you don't mind.
I'm just pacing endlessly.
It's as they say in Ireland. They say in Ireland, if you're sick, it makes you well, and if you're well, it makes you sick.
Enough. And I'm sure that's not really debatable either. So
it's Irish logic, and we all know what Freud said about the Irish.
Oh, Freud.
Did you remember? Do you know that one?
But coming from Freud,
he said, "Here's a race on which psychoanalysis is of no use whatsoever." It makes sense. The Irish just have a different relationship to reality than we do.
I'm
not sure how familiar, how real that is.
They steered me away from Freud during all my training. I used to be an assistant to a behavior analyst for about 10 years. So we were purely via Skinner, So that was our whole world.
Okay.
Behaviorism. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know much about Skinner. I'm sort of a Wilhelm Reich guy myself, but I still appreciate the good stuff in Freud and Jung.
Definitely, yeah,
of course. But I like the takes. I like a lot of what Reich did, except for I'm not so sure how sold I am on the masturbation box.
Well,
if you know what I mean.
Have to get some experiential knowledge on that, and so
yeah. Well, hey, orgone energy. Anytime someone comes up with a new name for energy, I sort of sigh. But at the same time, if you're trying to explore the definitions of a thing, sometimes you need new names to communicate what your definition is. It's better than just using the old word spirit or something, but with your own special definition that people don't know.
If anything, it's a useful.
Right. I think it's important that we agree on definitions in our community, especially. That's, to me, sort of what the Hermetic tradition is an agreement upon language use.
That steps to the latter, really. Or a series of...
if you just redefine names.
Yeah.
What
was it they used to call the energy made when wood is burning, when it gives off the heat? They would call it phlogiston, is that right?
Yeah. Phlogiston, yes! The phlogiston. Yes.
Right.
Me and Dean have an ongoing back and forth thing about ectoplasm.
Okay.
Because he sends me pictures of it. I laugh. And I have no problem with ectoplasm existing. I've just never seen it. I've heard stories of adepts saying they've seen it and stuff. And he said, well, I'm going to try and create some tonight to show you. I'm like, fucking A.
Right,
that is what we need. That's the kind of magical practice I'm interested in. I demonstrate, for the first time ever, in ages, I demonstrated something to someone who I was at a New Year's thing, which in Berlin is shockingly long. It started at 2 a.m. It started at midnight we went to a house at 8 p.m. and then we went to a party at 2 a.m.
Okay.
Got in at 3 a.m. and left at 9 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there was an indoor swimming pool.
How could you leave?
With cabanas and lounge. How can you leave? How can you leave there? I mean, it's going to be a good party when they take your cell phone and your shirt at the door.
Right. Just in case.
In case anyone's doubting whether or not I have a little love for the thelemic mode of life. I don't mind that stuff. I love the idea of the chameleonis.
I was investigating the OTO well before I ever sincerely took on the Golden Dawn work. Yeah. There's definitely an appeal. I love a lot of the grid material they have. And then that's so funny. I'd recently talked to someone who had undergone and did not pass the examination for the AA.
I thought all you had to do was admit that you had a problem.
No.
So I've been waiting to say that for ages. I've never said that ever before.
I've been waiting.
It seemed like the right moment.
Since birth, so,
Thank you. This is the reason we're friends.
That's right. But no, they were talking about some of the questions on the exam that were very curious. One in which it said, depict a pentagram that expresses the value it was like a really weird number, like 497. And so
Okay.
they had no idea what to do with that. You know, they just,
That number sort of rings a bell, actually.
well, I mean, I'm just picking that out of the air right now. I'm not sure what number it actually was, but I don't know.
Maybe it's just my life's been so full of this shit. Every number rings a bell.
Well, it equates to 7, I think, right?
I guess I'll trust you.
But
496.
497.
Yeah. Well, 497.
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, no.
Oh no.
No, it doesn't.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry, it's late at night. You know what I just dug out of my my trunk?
What's that?
I dug out this. You're gonna love this. I'll post some pictures of it to you and online. So I just dug out a duotang. You remember those? With like 50 pages of typewritten single space.
Really?
And it's from 1995.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what 14-year-old writes 50 pages of single space writing? And in grade 10, this is like so months after I was initiated into neophyte.
Yes.
We were told we had to do 5 book reports that year. Well, I had just finished reading 6 books, so I wrote 6 book reports. And I asked my teacher, this is in German they would call me a Streber. Streber. They always called me that in Vienna when I was like there in Zalator in 16. And it means striver. And when I heard that, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm a striver. I'm like a strider, striving to stride across the land and conquer Mordor, motherfuckers. Damn straight. And they'd be like, how can this guy like that word? But I was coming from being called a geek all my life already.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm a geek. Like, what would I rather do? Play basketball and chase girls, or play basketball and then go chase elf girls in Dungeons and Dragons?
Right. Yeah.
No choice there.
No question. No.
Real life people can't live up to your fancy ones. Come on. So these book reports, here's what it says. Book report number 1 by ... Satan Occultism by Dion Fortune. And then it's all on the same page. And book report number 2. Orders in the Work by Dion Fortune. And book report number 3. Practical Occultism Daily by Dion Fortune. And can you guess what? Book report number 4. The Training and Work of an Initiate by Dion Fortune. Book report number 5. Aspects of Occultism by Dion Fortune. And an oral report on Applied Magic by Dion Fortune.
It sounds a little self-indulgent there, I mean, you were just having
I was super thrilled that in high school the teachers were different than in grade school, and I was able to actually these are anthroposophists,
right,
who were schooled in Rudolf Steiner and knew about this stuff. In grade 8, I had already given my first book report. The first book report we ever wrote in our school was in grade 8. And I wrote it, I did a biography on Aleister Crowley. And I expected that I was trying to shock the teachers, but I was also curious about his life and all the crazy things he did.
Yeah.
But the teachers, all of them, even my crochet and knitting teacher, Mrs. Allerton, she was like, this old person was like, oh, Aleister Crowley, how interesting. Strange choice. And I was like, you know him? She's like, well, of course. I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, I thought this was just a school that, taught about you danced your name and your rhythm.
Gosh.
But it turned out I didn't realize how occult the Waldorf Steiner school system was. And so, I got very measured, interesting responses from these teachers. I'm like, I can do this. I was starting with the Donald Michael Craig book, like just doing the comfort, the relaxation ritual and that sort of stuff, and trying to get the LBRP together in a functional way. I mean, the first week I did it, it was just shocking to me, the difference between that and the things I was doing from like Cunningham's stuff and DJ Conway's Celtic Magic. First time I tried to set up do Celtic Magic with Dion Fortune or Conway's book, I just set up an altar, sat in front of it, and was like, now what? Like, I didn't have a clue. I was like, I sort of expected just drawing a pentagram on my chair, on my table.
Right.
With an indelible marker and putting all the things in the right.
It's okay that you.
I just didn't know what to do. Like, because it was like, I was like, okay. And anyway, so I handed in this massive duotang full of these book reports on Dion Fortune. And what you said about her earlier made me think of this. So I just ran into and grabbed it. But when I was rereading some of it, man, oh my God, it's so painful. Like, I'm reading myself and I'm like the most smug, arrogant little kid you could ever imagine.
So
like things
empowered, though, and so amplified above
your
peers at that time. Encountering information like that.
I was like, I am the one.
Right.
Wake up, Neo.
Right.
And like some of the things like there's lines like, and this thing that she says, I can attest myself through my own personal experience, blah, 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 blah. When I reread it, I have to like have a British accent in my head just to be able to bear my own words.
Through it, so I get it.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find a fun little passage that's really embarrassing to read for you.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure I have similar words.
Because she is amazing. She's amazing. Some of the stuff is a little nuts, and just I just don't agree with anymore. Well, there was this sense of ultimate reality. They had a much stronger sense that they were connecting with an ultimate reality of the way things really were, and I just think
I think
that's
it's a really
true.
Weird term to put on it. Yeah, ultimate. Yeah.
Well, that's sort of my term.
What's interesting?
That's sort of my term.
I have to think on that for a while.
The French philosopher Henri Bergson, who I used a lot in my graduate theses and doctoral work, is fascinating because, of course, when you consider the fact that this French philosopher who has mainstream clout and wrote a lot on matter and memory, and his main thing was intuition, which not many philosophers have tackled, especially analytical philosophers. It's fascinating when I realized, wait a second, Bergson, that name rings a bell. And then I realized he at various times had, his broke sister and her husband, McGregor Mathers, living with him in Paris.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, there is no way this French philosopher and Mathers weren't influencing each other.
Right. Oh, I love that.
In Paris. Oh my God. I love that too. Especially since that's the only connection Mathers or anyone in the Golden Dawn probably has to, or even maybe all of esotericism, that has to the mainstream academia of that time. Right? I mean, now we have academics like Moshe Adel in the University of Jerusalem writing about Kabbalah, and who understands the movement from modernism to post-structuralism and the ethical developments in the field of ethics that have happened. And he's writing about Kabbalah, which is fascinating because he shows like deconstructive operating in early Jewish thought and early Jewish meditation practices like Temura, which is one of my favorite things. And that's cool. But Bergson was this early philosopher, who clearly was influenced by Hermetic thought. That's like, how fucking groovy is that?
Yeah. I mean,
P.S. I do encourage swearing on this this podcast. The keeping us away and the judgmental spiritualists far from my door.
I'm very strange about how I.
That's why I posted that picture of me eating meat on my page.
What?
I posted a picture of me like cooking a steak the other, last month, just for Christmas. I think it was. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the judgmentalism of other people and their diets and the whole thing is just it gets to me. I think it's a really good filter actually to get rid of people you don't want around you. Is to get. It's sort of my solution. It's my cure to the danger of guruism.
It's a good one.
Add a dash of transparency, and people aren't going to see you as a guru ever.
Right. definitely don't let them create that that extra stratosphere for you,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that's a dangerous game. Do you get a lot of things like that online where people are reaching out to you, like, teach me, take me on as a student? And
well, I did until my
right.
account got
Well, I knew
blocked.
you were doing that in a systematic way, but I mean, do you ever get sort of the almost desperate messages, or just really outlandish ones that begging and pleading?
Oh, yeah. I had someone to ask me do a ritual to help
stuff
them
like that.
cut their penis off.
Right.
Yeah, because they don't deserve to have. And I talked to this person probably a lot longer than I should have. And I haven't blocked them yet or anything. I just dude, I'm sorry, but I can't help you with your penis.
Yeah, no.
Me and your penis have no relationship, spiritually or physically, and never will have. And, as a trained counselor and spiritual director, I'm very sympathetic to. It doesn't matter what the issue someone brings to you is. If they're bringing to you an issue,
right,
there's an issue there. What you have to do is discover what that real issue is.
Yeah.
And I'm always sympathetic to that because, Jesus. I say that with a smile, of course, because
I was
humor's the cure for
a
lot of things.
Yeah. I was
you were what?
Just wondering about your typical online interactions. I've had a few interesting of my own, but the only one that's really surprised me, and maybe it shouldn't have, when I posted some of the lamans that I'd made recently, and one of them being, the Philpott cross. In the original picture, one of them, it still remains. It was not reported. It's fine. But in the second, someone reported it as hateful, inappropriate. They took it as...
Was it the Philpott cross?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, just tell them to go to India.
Exactly. See it everywhere. But no, it's interesting because the first post survived. It still does. No one said a word about it, where it is blatantly displayed. And then in the second one, nothing. It was just instantly reported. But it took me a moment to not respond with frustration and to kind of think of how to present that in a way that was more of a learning opportunity rather than, fuck Instagram, fuck the filters, fuck the general opinion of all this. And,
there we go.
Whatever. But,
F-bombs hitting the ground.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I love it.
I'm very...
on my Patreon, I said that there was nudity in my Patreon so that it wouldn't list it.
It might up your sales. I don't know, but yeah.
I could probably post a picture of someone's penis if I just talked to that guy again.
Post it amputated as well if you were.
Oh dear God, that's just so brutal. I can't even laugh when you say that because I'm so sympathetic to the pain that person must be suffering to say that to someone. It's horrific and sad, and as a healer, I want people to heal, and it's just hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's a cool thing. I haven't read this in 20 years. Shall I read a quick paragraph? So this is on the 3rd chapter, preparation for initiation. That's cool. Yeah. That's appropriate, right? So I haven't read this in 20 years. This is 15-year-old me. The quote is, "The gate is open. It is for him to tread the path." Ignoring the sexist language of him, because you can't explain to people today that masculine includes feminine, or the fact that the word woman comes from the Old English word wife, man. I mean, people, even if they understand it, they're still they might say, well, that's not true, or they don't like that, or it's patriarchalism. But the bottom line is, today it is a little unnecessary and slightly douchey if you insist on using it. Right. You know how easy it is to write without gender? In my as an academic writer, I was trained from grade 10 or 11 on, again, I was very lucky to have good teachers. I was trained that if you had to use, if you were writing in a way that required you to then put in a gender, like, and that you were therefore motivated to say they or their, I was told that forget using they or their. If you're writing in an academic way that then requires you to put in a gender, you've made a mistake.
Oh.
Academic writing does not require that. Now, academics have now since accepted the inclusion of the occasional I in an academic writing, especially the progressive elite academics, and I'm not talking about the leftists or rightists or whatever, but I'm talking about just like high level academics. You don't need to use that kind of language. There's a way around it, and that way around it actually communicates more information in a briefer time. So, is it hard? Oh God, yeah, it's fucking hard. Yeah, of course it is. Like, you train for years to do it. Yeah, and I have no problem with there for to get around the gender thing. I think that's fine. It's been inevitable. I mean, it's gone a little bit farther than that, but let's read this. So, here's me. The third chapter, Preparation for Initiation, defines initiation and what it is to be an initiate. For me, this greatly helped to improve my somewhat vague understanding of initiation, for though I could always understand what Fortune meant by the words initiate and initiation when used in context, my actual definition was never clear. I now know that the word initiate, quote, this is a high grade of initiation and is normally preceded by lesser initiations of graded intensity, means someone whose higher self has overcome their personality. According to Fortune, this is the highest level of physical existence anyone may achieve. The integration of how Fortune explains what initiation is and contacting of a master is written in such a way that it brought me to form a self-realization on the subject. The image Fortune sets of the master, capital M, first contacting the student superconsciously, and the imprinting of the master's symbol and ray of operations in the student's Kether sphere, Kether meaning crown, the first Sephira, highest point of manifestation, above their head is an image of occult clarity. That's a weird phrase, occult clarity.
Right.
Nice little oxymoron there. After defining, of course, paradox is a huge part of the power of our work, and the essence of the two pillars and the lightning flash and all that. After defining and discussing initiation, Fortune goes on in this chapter to detail the options following initiation: the path of the mystic and the path of the occultist. Interesting. The former path is one where the mystic, after completing the cycle of reincarnation, a little swallow of hot whiskey, stays in his liberated state. For the mystic views the flesh as a form of bondage of which he or she, let's say, must break free. The latter path, however, but you can't even say he or she now, because then you're being dualistic and denying all the others.
I mean, it's
just such a hot. The latter path, hot mess. It's a hot mess. Let's call it that. The latter path, however, differs from the former in that the occultist, once reaching liberation from the flesh, returns to the plane of form, earth. The occultist's goal, I forgot the possessive apostrophe there, dumb fucking 15-year-olds. Goal is to then aid humanity, as did Jesus of the Christ energy, or ray. Quote, that the mystic aims at escaping from the bondage of the flesh, never to return, whereas the occultist designs to return to matter, bearing with him the fruits of his labors. That is something I still think is, I wouldn't call it mystic, although I would say that's more like the Eastern Enlightenment model. Anyway, that's the end of the quote. Yeah, to return. We don't just solve it, we coagulate afterwards, right? We go up the path of the serpent, but our goal is not to stay up there. It's the ability, we seek after the ability to go up there when we need to, but then bring it back down again. It's a big difference between sort of the yoga, transcendental meditation versus the Western path that I got into as a 10-year-old. It is not, however, that the mystic abandons the world, for his prayers helped to lift the planet's karma on the inner planes. When I had read the chapter, I came to the realization that my goal, I was very big on realizations back then, and what I believe is the obvious goal, is to be both mystic and occultist in one, as was Jesus. Holy fuck, that's pretty profound.
Sounds like you
I love that. I had some chutzpah, like, okay, she says there's two paths, and I was like, no, I will do them as one.
That was well, that's it. That's extremely impressive work. Really, yeah.
Thank you. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of douchiness there, which there is in some of the rest of it. But hey, what can I say? You know, back then I had black hair down to my waist and wore eyeliner every day, so I had one or two issues. Oh yeah, prosthetic vampire fangs, the whole shebang.
Oh my gosh, no, that's so interesting. So I love that.
Well, here's a
15-year-old you is talking about, you know, traversing to the different heights of the tree and then bringing back down. Sorry about that sound, by the way. Bringing that back down. I remember encountering that in Fortune's works, and that was a revelation for me. You know, because she proposed it in a way that she compared it to modern physicists, in how the science. She says, and how the scientists and physicists approach dissecting reality. They dissect dense matter to arrive at the underlying principles of its creation. The occultist approaches it from the principles of creation to create matter. And I thought, whoa, you know, like that's kind of a
that's insightful
statement there if you're not privy to it already.
Yeah, well, especially since we understand matter so much better now. And we understand that matter changes on these small quantum levels. Like, the fact that we now know that objects and space, physical things, maintain a kind of energetic memory, that is mind-blowing to me. Because I was sure that one of the things science would disprove is the idea of this talismanic nature of physical objects. I believed that would be disproven by science, is more one of the more hocus pocus woo woo things, and I was wrong as fuck. And do you know how glad I am wrong? I'm super glad I'm wrong.
Everything is enchanted,
you know. It makes sense. Yeah, objects. So now it's like you go enchant talismans and sell them to people across the world. Why not? Like, you know,
no, it's incredible. And then,
that's science.
Science. Like when you go through doorways and things, they say it's more likely that memories, your ability to recall certain things you've been groping for all day in your mind will suddenly come to you if you just go in and out of doorways in your home. I'm not sure what the empirical evidence behind that would look like, but you know, how conditional.
Well, I don't think we're there yet.
Just a lot of interesting theories like that out there.
We still don't know what
the future will hold for them, whether confirmed or debunked. But
absolutely, no, the questions are crucial. I mean, I was watching this thing on dark matter the other day, and I realized, oh my god, dark matter is just a temporary appellation. It's a name we give to something we don't know what it is or what it isn't. I was like, that's like, it makes me think of the placebo effect. It's like we give these things these pseudoscientific names so that we can categorize them, but then we often stop exploring
they literally go to the back burner. Yeah.
And it's like, so why are not more studies, like Rogan was talking about this, like why are not more studies being done on the placebo effect? Well, they can't sell it. That's where spirituality and Reiki and all these other mystical paths come in, right? But if the placebo effect is 40 or 50% as effective as taking an actual pill, you'd think that we would be training to create the placebo effect. And that is where spirituality and mysticism still hold dominance.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Like the placebo effect is essentially our mind changing our bodies. And dark matter is maybe spirit or something we don't know. It could be many, 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 many things. I'm a fan of science. I like hard science. I like soft science. I think science is great. I think spirituality should relent to science when science starts to investigate something. That's why I'm not I have very little interest in spiritual theories on reincarnation or karma, because I think it's gotten to the point where we need science to take the lead on that one.
Right. No, I can understand that for sure.
Like someone telling me how how reincarnation is, or how it works exactly, or how karma works exactly, based on their intuitions, doesn't satisfy me. It doesn't satisfy me at all. Especially since karma is a name that comes out of Hinduism, right? I believe. right? But the way we've co-opted it has nothing to do with the Hindu belief, which is one designed to support a caste system.
Yeah.
And a way of like maintaining lower status people to be content and not revolt against the Brahmins. And you see that in like Victorian English hymns, you know, the rich man in his mansion, the poor man at their gate, they all have their place in God's great kingdom, however that goes. You know what I mean? Do you remember that Christmas song? It's one of the popular Christmas songs. Like, yeah, the rich man in his, you know, all have their king. You know, it's like those were songs designed to pacify lower classes and make them believe that it was God's will to keep them where they're at. So on that level alone, thank God for capitalism. And
in that sense, yeah.
It's in that sense, right? Like, be all you can be. Amen.
Speaking of entrepreneurial endeavors, how is the Patreon going? Are you still actively doing that, or is?
Oh, I'm going harder into that more than ever. Yeah, and as of like January 31st, which is my birthday, I might be exclusively on that, and then just a little bit on the Frater R.C. thing. I'm phasing out of the other stuff, and I think this Facebook ban thing is probably due to competitors, haters. Like, there's some impersonators on me.
Yeah, I was confused about your
statement
banned on that. I wasn't sure if, what was going on with that?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's I don't want to get into it. It's just a bunch of bullshit.
Right. It is.
You know, yeah. Lazy, useless people will never stop trying to take from, you know, hardworking people who have a purpose in life.
Yeah.
And right now we're at a stage of the internet's development where, you know, cyber criminals are supported more than they are punished.
Seems to be the case. You're right.
Yeah, you know, and that's okay. I guess it's just evolution or something like that, you know. I mean, we see that with the uselessness of our political system as well. I mean, these overpaid politicians making 3 times what a high school teacher makes. And then we wonder why kids are shooting each other in schools. Right. I mean, it's just so self-evident to me that I don't think I can waste the intellectual time going into it in any detail.
Right, you save it. You try to all.
I think it might take
just implode. You know what?
The world's just not ready to change in that way yet, but change is coming. Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse. You know, it always does.
Yeah.
You know, look at language; it changes regardless of what we think it should do. Right. I mean, one of the first things I was told in Intro to Linguistics, actually, which everyone should take at Intro to Linguistics. You know, 6 weeks or 8 weeks on the 5 grammar.
Yeah.
You know? And we were told, like, when people say axe, can I ask you a question? They're not speaking a lower form of English. It's switching those 2 letters. I think it's called eclipsis. And it's a natural process. And it's very possible in 100 years that will be the correct way to say ask is axe. These things just switch around all the time.
Oh.
And if you look at Beowulf, it makes perfect sense. Language changes. I mean, we say Gebura, but modern Hebrew people say Gevura or Gevura. And here's what at first I was very conflicted about this. I'm like, oh God, am I fucking doing it wrong? But then I found out that the V and the B are cognate sounds, right? Especially in linguistics. That's V and B, T and D, right? And when you study the way the phonetics in your mouth work and the tongue moves with the palatal, alveopalatal, interdental sort of mechanisms, you realize how fluctuating and soft those rules are. And that's what happened when the Israel state was reestablished after the Second World War and Hebrew was reignited as a language. Because it really didn't exist. It wasn't even knowing Hebrew in Jesus' time was like us knowing Latin today. People forget that. That's crazy, right? That's why when Jesus said us, you know, Eli Eli lama sabachthani, people thought, why is he talking about Elijah? Because they didn't understand what he was saying.
That's hilarious.
Fascinating, huh? I know, right? Yeah, and we know that if he had said it in Aramaic, I think it would have been Allah, Allah, Allah. I forget the rest of it.
It sounds like that Rihanna song.
Hot whiskey. I am umbrella, Ella, Ella. You had my heart. It's a great song. I play it on guitar, actually. I do a lot of Rihanna and Britney Spears.
That's a big deal.
Oh, brilliant songwriting, man. What else can you expect when you get 30 well-paid craftsmanship geniuses together to compose a song for a pop star? You're going to get something good most of the time. I mean, that's why Taylor Swift's so impressive, because she writes her songs primarily herself. That's mind-blowing. Oh my God. And Katy Perry too. She writes, I believe, her songs, most of her songs herself. Yeah. I mean, rather than have to go to the boardroom and see what the board has come up with.
Makes me think of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have nothing against that. I just want, want some of those boardrooms to use my songs.
Making me think of Daniel Johnston right now, with his endless string of songs that he wrote out of complete neuroticism and obsession over this woman. Are you not familiar?
Well, no, I know Jack Johnson.
You've probably heard covers of this guy's songs. There's a great documentary about him. He basically kind of lost his mind to bipolar disorder and really acted out some manic depressive symptoms in a large way and had this big music career for a moment. It's called The Devil and Daniel Johnston, though, if you ever have time. It's really worth watching.
That sounds great. I definitely will.
Yeah.
I definitely will. There's some amazing new documentaries that have come out in the last 10 years about unknown musicians who, were lost but actually geniuses. I just watched the new Netflix documentary on Szarski, the Polish artist who really should be held up there with the greatest, almost completely forgotten about throughout the turmoils of the wars and everything. Yeah, it's really crazy. I think it's called An Eternal Battle. I don't know. My Netflix series in German, so it was like Ein ewiger Krieg. Yeah, the titles of the movies are in German on the net. I have to funny. Think for a second if I can't recognize. Yeah, Limitless is called Ohne Limit, Without Limit. Like Legends of the Fall is Legends of Passion. And there's some even stupider ones. Yeah, Germany is still one of the only countries that overdubs every single movie. Even the shittiest B movie is overdubbed in cinemas in Germany.
I love that. I love that so much.
It's pretty. When I went to see in 1997, I went to see Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford in The Devil's Own. With Brad Pitt with his brutal Irish accent. Right. I was very into the IRA back then. I was writing them letters. It was a weird phase in my life. That was my rebellious stage. But I went to see it in German, and it was even worse in German. And the name they gave defined, or sort of my beloved enemy. Wow. not The Devil's Own at all.
No. What?
Anyway. I razz Germans all the time on the.
I took German in high school, but I would not be able to keep up. I mean, if you wrote it down for me, I could probably sort it out. But
it's not very hard to learn.
It never was.
Certainly not hard like the French, German, all those Romance languages, the Germanic languages. They're simple as simple. Hebrew and Aramaic are really simple languages. Latin, simple language. You know what's a hard language?
Oh,
Greek.
God, yeah.
Or the Slavic languages. When Pushkin wrote his books, he was writing a lot of his words phonetically because did you know even 100 years ago there was no standard spelling for Russian?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine sounding out words and making up your own spelling for them because you've never seen them written before? I think it was a bit more than 100 years ago, but yeah, I'm a big fan of Alexander Pushkin. If you've never read Evgeny Onegin or seen the Ralph Fiennes and Liv Tyler movie adaptation, Oh, it'll break your heart. You will sit there crying like a child. It's just so beautiful and so romantically painful. Like, he at the last scene,
I love material like
when
that.
she sees him on the street and he walks away cold and alone. It's so heartbreaking. It's like Brad Pitt says in The Devil's Own, this is an Irish story. There's no happy ending. One of the worst Irish accents up there with Tom Cruise's. Yeah, but I still love all that stuff. It's just
right.
It's so melodramatic.
Beauty in that.
It's my version of Days of Our Lives.
Oh, absolutely.
There's beauty in everything, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorite book of poems I've ever read is by this Irish writer from Dublin, the leader of Irish language studies, Micheál O'Sheil, and he wrote a book on the Holocaust based on these accounts he read. One of the most powerful books of poetry I've ever read. I can't remember the name, but you can look it up. Micheál O'Sheil. It's Michael O'Sheil. And O'Sheil is spelled Osiadhail.
You'll have to
AIL, of course.
Yeah.
For those listening. Yes.
You're making me think of the symphony of...
Yeah, I have another podcast where I read poems.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. I don't syndicate it. It's just more for me. Sometimes I just like to recite poetry for an hour or two.
There's a beautiful series of symphonies called the Symphonies of Sorrowful Songs by Henrik Gerecki. And they are all inspired by a scrawled message from a young girl who was a prisoner in the Holocaust that she had written to her mother in the wall using her fingers, I believe.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But
that's
the
so
music's
painful.
beautiful. I think it might be movement 3 or movement, I can't remember now. But it's very, very beautiful. And I think you would like it.
Oh yeah, definitely send me. Link me up. We can post links on the cast page.
Right.
How crazy is podcasting? Hey, you just you and I have never met. We just click a couple buttons, and we're talking for the first time ever in our lives.
Yeah. It's strange.
Amazing.
It's funny.
Amazing. We've far surpassed Star Trek transcorders and those. Remember when Picard has his thing, and he's like, this contains every book on Earth. Shakespeare. And now we're like, oh, so it doesn't have much memory, eh? I'm pretty sure you can put a terabyte in a phone if you really want to.
I'm sure.
Probably more. I just wish they would actually give us real batteries instead of these ones designed to crap out after 6 months.
I'm even more surprised today that
what a scam.
We actually have the time to talk. I'm normally working all the time, or working on something, or drawing, or today actually happened to be one of those rare days off that I sometimes have.
Wow.
So,
but you still have to go in 20 minutes,
yeah.
Is that correct? Oh, that's sad. We're going to definitely have to do a part 2 of this.
Yeah. I have more drawing to do. It is the end of my Patreon. I'm putting a stop to it. Yeah.
Really? I just found out right now that you're on it.
Well, welcome. Yes, it's over.
Well, yeah, that's sad. I know a lot of people are leaving, like Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin, Sam Harris are all leaving in protest, which is intense. But, I don't know, you can't leave everything, can you?
No. So,
I understand, Griffin and his, bunch of cunt nuggets can get me banned off Instagram and Facebook as much as they want. But you got to stay somewhere.
I found a gallery hosting service online where I can just make the pieces indefinitely available. That way they're not limited. So,
okay.
With the Patreon, the originals were whoever won, that's it. That's the last one. It's gone.
Oh, you could win them.
It was like a lotto kind of format, As long as you paid, I think it was $1 a month, you had your name in the drawing pot, and that's all it took. But with the advanced membership tier,
that's cool.
Of course, were other bonuses. If you paid $5 a month, no matter what, even if you didn't win, you were guaranteed prints of both originals every month. So really, it wasn't very lucrative, but it was a lot of fun to do. it gets into that thing where
That's all that
people
matters.
accumulate, though, they forget to update credit card information, in time. And then when you pull a name and they haven't paid, well, I'm sorry, you're not eligible. So, and then I had a little backlash on that from one. And she said something,
Oh, no.
I mean, it was 7 days after the billing, and she still hadn't updated the card information. And, well, I was going to do it. My card was compromised. And so I said, well, I'm sorry, but that's on you to keep that updated. I can't update it for you. So
You're a hard man.
right.
You're a hard man. I'm a softie, man. Like, some people have written to me since my book's out in Spanish now, right?
Yeah.
It's in print in Spanish, but not in...
What? Yeah, what is the deal with that? Why are you
How
doing
fucking weird is that? It wasn't my choice. It had nothing to do... an old adept from trained in Toronto by some of my former mischievous students. Mischievous is a very nice word for them. Well, she split reason. And she to translate my biography. So I sent her the one-page biography, and then as a thank you, I sent her the entire book.
Oh, my God.
That's why it happened. And now she's working on volume 2 with a bit on the clipboard and all the the next 4 manuscripts, and there'll be the full Tahuti document manuscripts released.
Sure.
Which I'm glad to get that work out for people because, it's anything that helps anyone is good. But people, and they're like, yo, I can't buy the Amazon, or someone in Nigeria said they can't. There's no Amazon in Nigeria, and I couldn't figure out how to watermark the pages. So eventually, I just said, you know what? Here you go. Here's a document. If you're going to upload it to archive.com, so be it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I hope it helps. I mean, shit, man, you can't take it with you, right?
Right.
Like, you can't.
No.
And all that matters is how we can help and heal people along the way. Like, what else matters?
Right. No, I agree.
That's sort of my essential modus operandi in life.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm developing more backbone, especially with as attacks go against my family. Then it's like, okay, if I have to put down the wand and put more protect the family and stuff against trespass. Jesus Christ.
I still can't
what a
believe
guy.
that happened, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, the Sor who grabbed the 6-foot claymore as the phylax, the female sentinel, and put it at his throat and forced him out the door. She's on the Instagram. She watches everything I do. She doesn't in very low profile, but right. She and I messaged personally a lot, and she's just like, I heard you talking about that story. I'm like, yeah, of course. It's too funny not to talk about. No, I think that's maybe the only reason Griffin hasn't at me or said communicate with me ever since then personally. Because what do you say when someone actually has real dirt on you? Right. This is what this guy did to me. If it was America and it was a private home, I think I could have shot him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And especially...
oh, absolutely. Oh, I love you Americans. You guys are yeah, absolutely, man. Just shoot
I'm
him.
not encouraging.
You sound like Jeff Contreras there. No.
That is a reality here.
That is a reality.
Particularly
I didn't know who the person was.
Kentucky
he had a foreign accent, so I shot him. And the cops would be like, sounds about right, man. Boy, I tell you what.
Oh, that's where I'm from, by the way.
Oh,
I am from places like that.
Where? Texas?
No.
Are you from Texas, son?
I was born in Kentucky.
Oh, shit. I love bourbon.
Yes, we do.
I'm Knob Creek all the way.
But, I was born in Kentucky. I was raised right on the border of West Virginia in...
West Virginia,
right,
Mountain Mama.
Backwoods little town. It's a place where everyone thrives on the misuse of double negatives.
Well, that's brilliant. I think that's one of the most advanced forms of language you can use.
Well, they don't know what they're doing with it. But
I don't know. No, I don't know. But I love language, and I think dialectual differences are scoffed at. I think they're to be learned from.
Very interesting.
They say so much about our psychology. So interesting. Oh,
yeah. I have a friend who...
Like, do you know that everyone in Germany...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Tell me about your friend.
Oh, okay.
No, fuck Germany. I don't need to talk about it.
I have a friend, and she is from Logan, West Virginia, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere. No one even knows where it is. She is so intellectually accomplished, though. I mean, she's a professor, you know, for university, has like a doctorate and all this wonderful stuff. She's done very well for herself, and that's not to be expected from anyone from where I'm from. But when you meet her, her accent is the thickest I've ever heard in my life. So it's very disturbing to her academic peers who are, you know, from renowned places, renowned schools, but when they meet her and she's able to trump them in any way possible, but with this really blatant accent, it confounds them, and it's the most brilliant thing to observe.
Don't you mean drump them?
No, you're fine.
Sorry, I had to. I'm sorry. So, you know, it is fucking awesome. Like, you know, you get these people with these you know, what do we call them? Insular or country accents.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, when
you listen to them talk, and you're like, wow, this person's smarter than...
They thought she was from Russia. No one there could understand her. It was...
Holy shit.
We thought it was a joke
awesome.
at first, but it went across the entire city. No one could make out what she was saying. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Huh. I'm a fan of it. Definitely. It's fascinating. Yeah. You know, there's old songs from the Appalachian Mountains that are exactly the same as Irish songs that we have from like the 16th, 17th century, but they're sung differently. And linguists have deduced and figured out that actually those accents are probably more similar to how Irish people spoke back then, just like linguists are pretty much mostly agreed on the fact that Shakespearean English probably most likely sounded and compared to modern day accents most similarly to the Southern American accent, like Georgia and Savannah, the molasses. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Amazing. And it makes perfect sense. You know, like, so you got these Irish songs like, she took him by the lily white hand and she led him to the stable. And then you got in the Appalachian version, which was isolated for 300 years, right? You got, she took him by the lily white hand and led him to the stable.
You know, there's
wow, so cool.
Well, it's considerable anyway. It's called the Foxfire Books, and it's a collection of all the knowledge of the frontiers people of Appalachia. And it's their songs, it's their culture, how to build their cabins, how to fight snakes, and how to charm things with psalms from the Bible. It's incredible, really. It's a treasure trove of that culture.
Yeah.
And,
it's like, well, they must have some crazy folk magic in that region as well.
Abounds. I actually found my first tarot deck buried beneath my friend's house in a shoebox with newspaper clippings and marked as targets.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whoa. It was like put there by Jesus just for
somebody, you. Hoping not to have it found, I'm sure. So,
oh, you know it was Jesus because after Jerusalem and Israel, he came to America. Jesus came to America after
we
he was
don't
in the
really
ancient
try to
Near
share
East.
that too much.
We know this because, yeah, well, we don't want to let those are the secrets that Moroni has given just to us. If you were going to name an angel, do you think you might choose a word other than moron to put a suffix on?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out a bit.
Like the angel just linguistically, I've always thought, now the word moron existed in Joseph Smith's time. Maybe he could have used a different name or heard a different name, been like, of all the names, Moroni, like, it was almost like a secret tell to any smart people that might question his authority. Don't come here unless you are one of the followers of Moron. Like, I don't know. It's it's so obvious, right? And how do you lose gold tablets after 100 years? We still have Bibles from the 2nd century.
You've never lost
and they lost the gold tablets. And those Bibles were...
I mean, it happens all the time.
Not personally, not willingly,
Well, my friend, I have to get going, unfortunately.
Yeah. We got to plan a part 2 of this.
I say that. I'm always willing, not always available, but we'll figure it out.
Ditto. I'm going to be here for the rest of this month and then head off on the road to do Vienna, the Thoth Hermes thing, and a bunch of workshops in Prague, Rome, Amsterdam, London, and Ireland,
East Coast of the States, huh?
and somewhere else. Then, no, I would like to do East Coast of the States, but I don't really have that many connections there. But I'm going to be flying to San Francisco and for all of March.
Okay.
Yeah, and see where things go. I'm following the secret stream, so I don't have a plan. I just have goals.
All right.
Yeah, so any parting words for self-initiates or seekers of the light to give them with your blessing?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, if you're going to tackle it in a sincere way, is to do just that and be honest with yourself. Make time for it. Don't do it if you don't have time for it. Otherwise, it's just a waste of your own time.
Right. There's lots of time to do these things in your life. You don't need to rush it.
There are ways to make time. You can make an hour or two a night and be okay with that. You might have to give up your online interactions or whatever the case, but if you're truly sincere about the work, then it should be worth it to you. So, yeah.
Amen. Frater, thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been amazing, and we'll talk more soon. Hopefully, maybe we can do another part next week or the week after or something. And I tell you what, when I come to Ohio, we're going to have a good time.
Let me know.
I will. All right. Peace and love.
Take care.
Bye.
Thus endeth the first part, done while I was in Berlin, January 3rd, 2019, with Chris Winters, and following now is from just today, Cinco de Mayo, 2020, while I'm in California, part 2 with Chris Winters. Enjoy.
Hey, Chris. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you hear?
Are you still there?
Yeah, that's the first thing I've heard you say. Have you heard what I've been saying?
It was very glitchy, if I'm being honest, but now I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, it might have just taken a second to fully connect.
Yeah, that may be it.
How are you doing? I'm glad we're catching up.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm doing fine, though. Enjoying some downtime. Recently was re-invited back to work, I suppose, but we're still shut down at the moment. But I'm sort of just watching the place while we're shut down, making sure no one breaks in and loots the place. But yeah.
Yeah, because that's a thing now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Especially at a big luxury property like that.
Oh, wow. What kind of property is it?
It is a hotel. It's kind of a mix between a hotel and a fine arts museum. The owners built it from their own art collection and everything. So
it sounds like exactly the kind of place you would fit in.
Yeah, there's a bit of temptation, I think.
I hope they should hopefully treat you as well as a priceless piece of art.
I don't know if they do that, but I guess I was worth bringing back at least, so I'll count myself lucky.
Well, they ought to, for sure.
Yeah, how's it going for you?
All right. Just we're all trying to stay sort of sane,
Right, that is the current struggle.
All of us having lost all of our work and,
So that's tough. They're can't get home, can't go anywhere really.
Right.
Shelter in place here in California has been extended indefinitely, which is makes sense because having the 6-week limit or whatever really gave people, I think, a false impression of how serious things were. They started thinking, oh, it's going to be 6 weeks, then we're going to be back at it, and everything will be fine, and they're all itching to party and get out there. And it's like, what do you think the virus cares about our timeline? This was a timeline just to sort of like say we're going to see how it goes, and now they're just like, okay, it's indefinite because people got the wrong impression.
Right. Well, they did make an agreement with the virus, shook hands on it, and it's just not filling its obligation, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the virus really needs to treat us more fairly and equitably, I think.
Right.
I mean,
well, I hear it's going well in Georgia, but
oh, is it? Yeah. Well, it needs to stop just going after old people and autoimmune people. It needs to, like, why doesn't it go after, I don't know,
more pressing targets?
Yeah, like politicians.
Right.
Yeah. Spare the doctors and school teachers. Go after the politicians.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they seem to be. I've never witnessed anything like this in my entire life, or even imaginary life, where all the authority figures in the world, it seems, have become regressed to like preschool level behavior and intelligence.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's like a strange simulacrum of
they're
something.
not,
Yeah,
they're not even acting like a normal shitty adult.
right.
They're acting like a shitty preschooler.
Right. They've given up on the illusion too. It really is just the raw content. It's lazy, even in a way.
Very lazy. I like calling it lazy. People hate that. Yeah.
Too real, maybe.
Yeah. When I there was a big change in my life when I decided to stop referring to those folks that robbed me of all my shit. Stop referring to them as like evil fucking bastards, and I started just referring to them as lazy and greedy, and they really didn't like that.
Well, it's the truth,
We're not lazy. We're not greedy. It's like, actually, that's exactly what you are.
Right.
Taking someone else's life's work and product and money and bank accounts and stuff and hacking them. Like, that's what happened. I mean, it's funny. I was listening to the podcast because I had to record it off playing it on the computer. So there's cocks crowing in the background here and all kinds of other noise because I can't escape that. And
right.
But I wanted to save that podcast from the Occult Magic one, which I was locked out, of course, when Facebook terminated the Frater R.C. account. So never create any accounts with a sign-in through Facebook or Instagram or any platform. Use your email, people. Otherwise, they can lock you up permanently, which means they keep taking all of the revenue. And to force someone to keep their content up, even when that content's not appropriate anymore, and not let them access it. I've explained it to the anchor text as often as I could, and they can't wrap their head around it, right? Because I created the account with a VH Frater R.C. Facebook. And then when they locked me out, I tried to log into it using the associated email, which was vhfraterrc@youknowwhat.com. But that just created a new podcast.
Oh wow!
And then when I
you can't even continue the old work.
They're like, "Hey, look, your email associated with Occult Magic Podcast is active and it's there." I'm like, "Yeah, as a different account." They're like, "It's the same thing." I'm like, "Well, it's definitely not the same thing. It's a different thing." They're like, "But it's the same email with the Facebook account." I'm like, "Yeah, but when I went in through Facebook, it created it's not the same access point as the email one that I then tried to get in when the Facebook was deleted, so I couldn't log in with Facebook." And they're like, and they didn't get it. There's no amount of emails back and forth could clarify to their so-called tech support what the problem was. They still don't understand it, which is why I'm not going to run any of their ads this time on this podcast, and I'm going to rely on the kindness of strangers to use other links and support my work on YouTube and podcasts. So I'm not going to use native ads in either of those things because they don't treat people well. It's very, very awful.
It's true, and it greater implication might be too that it's just out of their hands and they don't know how to tell you that, or they don't know how to admit it. So
they just might not. Well, I think I think it's possible they might not be able to access that, but I know some computer guys, and they're like, no, there's always a way in. The tech people might not know the way in, but what shocks me is they don't seem to understand what the problem is. They're like, the emails always end with text scores. We're glad that we could resolve this for you. Clearly, your email's working fine and logging you into a podcast. I'm like, it's not the same podcast.
I mean, they could even just go to the account directly. I mean, they could go try to view your old podcast and notice.
They could completely send me a link to re-log in as an email or something else, or even as my actual, my legit legal name on Facebook, which is the only Facebook I have left.
Right.
You know, which means I can't really be active on Facebook without putting my family at risk.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't use Facebook. I had it a while ago, years ago, and
no, I use it. I use Messenger to talk to my mom because she's not able to remember how to use email and stuff as she's at this stage in her life, shall we call it?
Right.
And once she's transcended this plane, Facebook's getting permanently deleted. I'm just fucking turning that shit off. All the studies and everyone I've heard from show that they get 30% happier. I don't care about the percentage, but if you're getting 30% happier by deleting Facebook, if someone said, hey, would you like to be 30% happier? Wouldn't you say yes? And then if all you had to do is delete this thing, that seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, it seems like simple to me too.
Yeah, I have some acting friends in Vancouver who are like, yeah, but then I can't message you at night. I'm like, when you're drunk.
Right.
They're like, yeah, well, yeah, but you know, it's fun. I'm like, not for me, it isn't.
Right, or use a phone number. I mean,
yeah,
plenty of drunk texts will abound. It's fine.
Fucking give me a call. International long distance calling is like $10 add on to a phone, right?
I think so. And then what about like WhatsApp? They could always do that.
Sure, yeah, I had to be on that for the group stuff for the ISIS Oasis here, though. I don't like WhatsApp either because Facebook's messed with me around because they own that. They've messed with me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well. Oh yeah, they own it, and they've taken in from. Oh, they've done some heinous things, I tell you, but let's not get into it. It's
sure
enough of that. It was painful enough to hear re-recording our 2019 talk. To hear about me joking around about giving my student and really trusted friend access to my storage locker, and hopefully he won't run away with all my shit. And that's exactly what he did. Even
you're kidding. My
bank. So when I got hacked in England, when I was trying to leave England to come to California, and then got stuck in France, he sent DMs on Instagram to a friend of mine, bragging that it was him and his hackers that did it. I talked to Amazon. They allowed me to record a conversation with their tech support saying they've never seen a hack job so severe attempting to penetrate my publishing account. They didn't get in, but they locked me out for several months. But they couldn't actually take it over. Thank God for Amazon's
how lucky
tech. Yeah, how lucky. Because they could have just done immense damage to me. And they already did by hacking my bank accounts. And what's crazy is they bragged about it in DMs. This guy bragged about it. And he had access to my bank docs, my social insurance number, all my birth certificates, copies of every document you could ever imagine, including all my family photo albums, books, all my magical tools, pretty much, except the key 5 ones, and just, my whole life. And he removed my whole life from me. And, all the products that were being sent, they're all just sitting in his drawer, signed books by Chris Bennett, ready to go out. They're all just in his mom's apartment with him. And he just raped my life, man. He's selling my high quality books with the help of other booksellers. And it's just devastating. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets that I was relying on and using to support loans and stuff, just gone. And, the police's advice was, well, too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
One cop actually said, why don't you just leave the country and change your name? I'm like, what's the point in changing your name if it's public record? He's like, well, I don't know. that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for you. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, enough of that. I don't want to focus on that. It happened. I've moved on. Honestly, I really think it is part of my alchemy. I think, the fires of Geburah are ripping me apart and burning off remaining dross, preparing me for death and the afterlife that will come when I'm done here. And just minimizing what I have to focus on, even if it's minimizing my resources and forcing me to function in different ways to get by. It's I have to see it that way, you know. At the same time,
the scorpion leapt into the fires. You know, you alluded to the possible outcome yourself, and so it was.
I know, and I don't believe, if anyone out there thinks that I sort of manifested that, fuck you. I didn't manifest that, you know, just because we're aware that evil can be done doesn't mean we're responsible for people making evil choices. But I've gotten a lot of messages to that effect saying, well, you asked for it because you trusted someone. It's like, I'm sorry. Trusting someone means asking for it. Well, then I guess my whole life is asking for it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no logic behind that, I don't think. But yeah.
Anyway, so moving on, because we don't have forever, right? It would be nice to if we could get another equivalent time to what we did before, so we hit that pinnacle prime sweet spot for time. But I'm aware that you're a busy guy. So where are you at? You've come a long way since last we spoke. I was at Atlantis Books signing my books in London, and there's a magazine with an article by you in it.
Oh, really?
I took a photo of it.
You happened upon that, huh?
I happened upon it. Well, you had just posted a reference to it while I was there, and I looked in the window. There's the magazine. I pull it out, show it to Geraldine, and I was like, that's my buddy. So tell me.
That's so bizarre.
Tell us
I had
about
no idea
that.
you discovered it.
Yeah, and I took a photo of me with it in front of the bookstore to send you. I'll have to find that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was contacted by the editor of Pagan Dawn magazine.
They reached out to you?
They did.
Mr. Wonderful, eh?
I don't know. I'm not sure where it came from, but I went with it. And
talk about manifestation.
I was grateful.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So we struck up a good conversation, and she and I are good friends now. And yeah, for the last year, they wanted 4 articles from me for their 4 seasonal issues. So I did that, but it's all a volunteer operation. You know, it's but I just thought it would be a good experience and a good resume builder. So
they don't pay even like 2 cents a word.
No. But that was discussed in the original agreement, and I knew what I was getting into. So
yeah, no, that's not a big deal. It's print, so you know these days having things in print is a good advertising in itself.
You know, it wasn't a BuzzFeed article or anything like that, so I felt pretty good about it. But yeah, the topics were a bit of a challenge, I'll be honest. How do you write 3 magazine pages on, you know, the symbolism behind the ritual cup, or those, you know, foundational tools like that, the elemental tools?
Mm-hmm.
And that was overwhelming, because how do you be concise and how do you be thorough? Right.
Did you find you had to cut a lot of good information?
You have no idea.
Oh no.
And then finding a solid direction to fit it into a solid piece for a print magazine. It was overwhelming and it was daunting. And I don't know, I did what I could. I tried not to stress too much about it.
You want to give our listeners a little bit of a tease about some of your insights into the 4 elemental weapons?
Oh, we could. It's been a while ago, so I'm trying to remember what I even wrote.
Well, what are your currently developed thoughts?
Well, as far as the cup goes, a lot of it had to do with the actual structure of the cup itself, the architecture of the cup, if you will. Dealing with the Belt of Orion and all of that, I mean, the constellation in total, superimposing that over the Tree of Life glyph, kind of how that all connects, because if you do that, it has a strange relevance in the spheres. And yeah, I mean, all about the path of manifestation through it, through the subconscious, as well as Gabriel's purpose as the messenger.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. I mean, there was some gematria in it as well. I tried not to go too deeply into that because, you know, you figure the average reader probably isn't too familiar with that anyway. But, you know, what good is it to...
Yeah.
Now it becomes an article explaining gematria instead of what it was intended to be.
Yeah, and you could, that makes sense.
You know, you have 2,100 words, and it's like, well, no time for that.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of the gist for all 4 articles, and the editor wanted them to kind of coincide with the seasons at the time, and that made sense to me, and it was fun. But they've asked me for another article for their summer issue coming up this year. And I'll be working on that soon enough. And that one will be just about me and my personal life, living hermetically, if you will. So,
tell me more about that. How's the work of self-initiation been going for you?
It's been a strange evolution. I am also a member of the Builders of the Adytum.
I know. Good for you.
And that has sort of taken over my life.
Oh, in what way?
It's eclipsed everything else. Strangely enough, I wouldn't have predicted it, but their curriculum dealing with kind of transformation through the tarot, that has had a profound effect on me.
As well it should.
Yeah. It's been massively transformative. When you first encounter the BOTA, you don't really anticipate, too much profundity coming of it. But when you really start to set to work in it, it's immediate.
Yeah.
It's unlike anything else I've really gotten into. And while I still study my Golden Dawn material, the BOTA is there at the forefront.
Well, yeah, it's really not that much different. I mean, what's underestimated in the Golden Dawn curriculum, especially alchemically, is the huge role that pathworking, the major arcana of the tarot, plays, because the techniques aren't all that complicated, especially now that they're available and published and even included in a lot of out of order curriculums. Whereas reading Yeats's notes recently and some other adept notes in his Celtic mystery stuff pointed out to me very clearly that the pathworking techniques were very secret inner order teachings back in those days. But now that they were only for adepts and not necessarily beginner adepts. So the process of visualizing yourself moving into the card, there's a note by one of the adepti in the scrying sessions with Yeats saying, no, this is very secret RR at AC knowledge. Do not share this or republish and print this.
Exactly.
But now it's
and I think to a lot of people, it appears boring even at first glance. You even find it in the updated Garden of Pomegranates.
Yep.
It's in there in the second half right there. And I bet a lot of people approach that and think, I don't really want to do that.
They don't.
That doesn't sound like flashy. It doesn't sound like lights, camera, action.
But it is the core of the transformation, because as it coincides with the initiations. And, a lot of people don't do it well also, in my opinion, because they don't take seriously the neophyte exercise of the tarot contemplation ritual, which Craig outlines very well, and other people have given other versions of it. But they're essentially, by doing that tarot contemplation ritual of all 22 arcana many, many times in the neophyte grade or in any grade, the way you integrate those symbols and those cards in your mind's eye is crucial to the step of then pathworking them.
And that's exactly what the BOTA's curriculum begins with.
Paul Foster Case,
that's the first thing.
He correctly noticed that this was one of the crucial things in the system, and it was getting lost in the mire of Solomonic rituals and Enochian magic and stuff. And he said, enough of that stuff. I'm going to focus on what really changes people. And so no wonder you're finding Boda to be super transformational.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was the direction I think I was looking for. And it really has been the discovery of my life so far.
Wonderful. That's so good. Or as Duncan Trussell says, wow.
But I don't know. Maybe you've seen it online, but I've been very busy painting them week by week.
Yeah.
I'm almost on the end of that. So.
Well, I've gotten a lot more insight into Boda the last year teaching here at the Isis Oasis, who supported my work. And working with Arissa Victor, Granny Rainbow, who's the protege of Case. And she...
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
She was on a live stream with me last week, and someone said, hey, here's a question for her. Did Paul Foster Case have any actual influence in the writing of William Walker Atkinson, quote unquote, the Three Initiates, Kabbalion? And she's like, yep. And they were like, okay, we heard this. Someone mentioned it on Glitch Bottle. I'm like, Arissa, how do you know that? She's like, oh, he told me.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, she's 82. So, and so I've been helping her get her final book out, Tarot for Self-Realization, which is her real masterpiece on the Boda interpretations of the tarot. And when you read that and her other books, where she has the conversations from her Thursday night tarots with Jason Lauderhand, Case's protege and celebrity student, as well as her other books, High Magic and High School Astrology. High School Astrology is actually one of the best intros to astrology I've ever read, and this is coming from a kid with an astrologer mom and every book you could ever imagine in the house. I've never seen anything like Arissa's High School Astrology. She even has another book that's like a coloring book for kids of a tarot, and another book that's these are unpublished, and another one on like a after school or Sunday school magical curriculum for daycare kids in a Boda tradition. Right?
Wow. Yeah, I'm blown away by this. I think that's something I really admire about you, is that you have been making all of these connections with these really profound people. I'm so locked away with myself that I don't really branch out. I don't really.
Yeah,
connect.
well, after Frater BT sort of tagged me in the relay race as he stepped off into India and said, I think what you have to offer is needed in the world. And then Frater Yeshi, of course, showed up at the pub I was playing at with some of the other heads of his order to tell me about the recent schism involving my protege who caused the US-Canada schism with GD International. Everyone was like, look, it would be great if you came out and did something. And of course, some of them expected me to rejoin their second orders and stuff. And my true will simply was like, no, you got to stay unaffiliated from now so that your opinions and your everything from my encouragement and my indictments wouldn't be seen as sectarian and coming from an agenda of a particular order or second order or affiliation, but rather my own integrity as what I independently think might be helpful for different people on their different paths.
And I think as realized as you are now, I just don't see you jiving with that anymore.
With a set order.
I'm glad. Correct.
Maybe. Once this egregore is done, January 31st, 2021, I'll open back up, have some more knowledge and have some more conversations and lead to knowledge with who, and see what is said. I do that. Right. Of course, hitting the road and then interacting with a lot of people I admire and respect over the years outside of even the academic world I got exposed to through Nicholas. Has just been a byproduct of my work and my trajectory. It's not something I don't run around looking for these amazing people, but they just sort of show up if you're doing the same sort of work they are. And, I have the lucky opportunities to drop questions to almost anyone and get a very positive sort of encouraging response and advice and information that I might need. So that's really nice, especially since my goal is just to pass it on to people on whose path it might really have an impact.
Right. And I think it is having one.
I hope so. I mean, there's been an obviously severe price to it all, but like Uncle Al says, the second you declare your true will, you make an enemy of every demon in hell.
It's it. Yeah.
I don't have to qualify Crowley's point of view. Of course, we all know his point of view is a little severe and dramatic, but
just a little.
There is something. There's something to doing. There's something to it. What about you? What sort of resistance have you encountered as you've gone further on the path and had your exposure increase in the world?
It's interesting. I did join the AMORC last year. The AMORC, the Rosicrucian Order. Yeah,
why
just
not?
Because they were local, and I thought, why not? And I found very quickly it was not for me.
It's pretty watered down, right? Me and Frater.
It sure is, and that's exactly the way I would put it. You're led into the Masonic temple because they're borrowing the Masonic lodge.
Just like the Mormons.
Exactly. And and then you see all these people kind of doing the run-of-the-mill salutes and everything. They're explaining the temple, and unfortunately I've already read past that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I get it. That's cool. And
yeah.
I don't know. It's just everything I knew it would be.
Frater,
the material they kind of dish out monthly.
Frater
I don't
C
know.
and I talked about that because he's a past master of the lodge in Santa Rosa here. And he commented. He's also a 33rd degree Mason or 32nd or whatever it is, as well as a 00 in the Neophyte system with David Hogan.
Zalewski's group under Martin. And so he's got some good perspective. It was really fun to get a perspective of someone who's gone through all the way through Masonry, all the way through Amorc, and is now experienced GD. Oh, and he's also gone through all the way through Martinism. So that's a cool interview to listen to if you have a chance. Of course, what we should have recorded was a call we had the other night where we talked for 5.5 hours strictly about magical things with not much departure and with a lot of seriousness. That probably would have been an even better podcast.
Probably.
Yeah, he's local here, so I hope to see him a bit more before he heads off. Plus, he's a professional metal musician and drummer and guitarist, so it's like jamming with him is hardcore awesome.
I'm sure, yeah.
He pulls out the dobro, and we do a bunch of country or folk stuff or whatever, just like hit the groove. We talked a lot about music and the magic of music, but
yeah. As far as that,
so
no, you're good. I was trying to reflect back on some moments of resistance. Recently, I've actually, where I keep to myself again, I don't really meet many people to resist or resist me. You know, I'm not really in the way of anyone else or perceived that way. I've had some strange communications online where people have reached out and, you know, I want to know about this, and I just have to send them elsewhere anymore. Like I'm not interested in that right now. I'm not studying that right now.
right.
You know, I don't want to waste my energy talking about that or trying to talk you out of playing with goetic magic when I don't know why you have an interest in it right now. Like, you know,
It's fancy. People get excited about it, but like they just don't realize bringing evoking demons to physical appearance, like Lon reminds us, is designed to cause a nervous breakdown.
exactly.
You better be ready for that,
And they're
motherfuckers.
not, you know,
They're not.
and they're not. And you can tell from the questions that are being asked, and that's fine, you know. Chances are good that if I don't answer your questions, you'll get exhausted trying to make it work, and you'll give up, you know, and maybe come back when you're ready.
Plus, fortunately, most people who try to summon spirits to visible appearance don't actually know the crucial piece of information that allows that to work.
Right.
Like the actual technique and tools. They imagine like they'll see it in the smoke or outside their circle, and it's like, I think you need to pay attention to Poke Runyon for a minute there, brother. And sisters.
Oh, I love Poke's old video on it. I think it came out in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the video though, but he explained it to us in '97 at the Temple of Isis in LA.
Mm-hmm. He's got a video of it up on YouTube. You can check it out. I mean, it's got that old grain to it and everything. It's wonderful.
Oh, see, I was trying to not encourage people to run off physically evoking demons in their faces, but so be it. If you guys want to mess up your psyches, go ahead.
It's an interesting video, regardless. But I don't know.
The advice that I always treasure is what was said to me by the most greatly honored Frater TDL, who's my main mentor, and he just said to me, first time standing inside the vault, he said, "Remember, always look up before you look down."
Yeah.
And I've been looking up ever since, I guess. Well, I did do my tunnel work, I guess you could say. And I probably won't talk about that for another 10 years.
Sure.
It's I'm still too freshly coming out of it, and people don't understand. It's not something to encourage really either, because it's something that alchemically is necessary when you get to a certain stage, the stage that St. John of the Cross would refer to in Dark Night of the Soul as the dark night of the senses. First, you go through the dark night of the spirit in the lesser circulation and the lesser mysteries, then the dark night of the senses, or spirit in the greater circulation of the greater mysteries. And that's my own equation of his two systems. But you can see in Christian mysticism that there are these two experiences that line up with the Western esoteric tradition of alchemical understanding that's very interesting. And to read a 16th century Spanish mystic's spiritual techniques and methodologies for dealing with those crises that come in those dark nights is nothing short of life-saving, I think.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah.
So, I think the quote to take from you is, "I don't find that many people resist me."
That holds a few different implications there. So
I know, you got to be careful.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, Chris. Yeah, I hear not many people resist him. But so I'm glad that
your self-initiation, you were doing Chick's book, of course.
Correct, yeah.
Has sort of took you to really getting deep into the Boda system. That's very cool.
It did, yeah. Again, kind of a strange curveball, but yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Well, not to be critical of self-initiation by Chick, especially since I was just having some lovely conversations with him and Tabby last month at the Pantheon Hotel, and with Lon too. All four of us just standing around talking about, well, Griffin and others, but also just magic in the systems and stuff like that. It was just amazing. I was like, holy crap, I'm just standing here talking with the head of the OTO and, for lack of a better word, the head of the GDs. You know, definitely the figure person that's most respected.
Correct.
And that's just trippy. That's just trippy, right? It's so cool to see everyone getting along. I think we could all model a bit of that getting alongness that they are modeling for us.
Right.
I thought I was going to be like all eloquent talking to you this time, and like, you know, but I don't know. I just find myself stumbling again. It's just when compared to hearing your voice and your phraseology, man, it's just
you have nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, no, you just have a very very good way of speaking.
I appreciate that.
Very great. I hope you do some courses one day and create some programs or courses one day when you've gotten to where you're ready for that.
Well, honestly, I have been considering doing something, and it's kind of just in my mind right now. And I thought about writing narratives to every tarot card and just recording them as sort of, you know, a casual sort of meditation where you can, you know, view them and let your subconscious absorb the imagery, of course, but also build stories up in them.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, pathworking is essentially self-guided meditation stories that tend to surprise us in the way they go.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a natural process. I could really see you even following sort of the style of the Chemical Wedding or the early Rosicrucian documents, like not necessarily in verbiage, but in sort of form and ethos.
Right. Yeah.
They have that mytho-narrative structure designed to guide spiritual intuition and revelation.
Right. I mean, it always reminded me of the Lakota Sioux language, and how every letter, as you learn it, has its own kind of mythology. It has a folk tale.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn it.
Yeah, it's a lot of primitive, well, for quote unquote primitive languages too.
Right.
I mean, even that's what we see in the Hebrew alphabet, the Phoenician, Greek, Hebrew alphabet, the Egyptian most profoundly, of course. I think it's only as languages changed, developed, and derived out of each other that sort of faded away into a more technical evolution, like we have with English out of the Germanic.
Yes. Yeah. But
yeah.
So maybe one day, if I ever drop some of the other projects I'm always doing, but yeah.
Well, yes, you're just sort of seriously focused on the work, the daily work of doing Boda.
Correct. You know, then I still stick to some other things I'd always done. And do
you have a local group for that?
There is, and you know, I'll tell you, I met with them twice. And
so you have mostly been doing this correspondence?
Mostly correspondence, yeah. I met with them twice. And I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but I mean no disrespect towards the group I met with. They were far older than me, and they were not as open or flexible with some of the information I had to offer.
That's actually something I've heard said about Boda since the mid-90s.
Yeah, we were, I think, contemplating the death card at the first meeting, and they were all going around the room sharing thoughts, and I referenced...
But your thoughts weren't good. You did
well, they were from Crowley. They weren't even mine. And I thought it was it's the statement about the scorpion, you know, purportedly flinging itself into the flames. And it kind of drew a blank on all their minds. I could see it. And then they just moved on to the other person. I thought, well, maybe I'm not so welcome here. That's fine.
Jeez, man. The old guard, hey? They got to die out.
Maybe. It's funny. There was
I see
another
that.
guy there that was about my age, and I saw him perk up when I said that. I could tell he was intrigued, but we never really took it beyond that. So
Maybe you're the future leader of
no,
Boda.
don't say that.
Don't. All right, I'll just project it into your sphere and into the sphere of nature. They'd be lucky to have you probably lead them. But yeah, no, I say I have tremendous respect for our elders, and it's something that is dying off, unfortunately. Yes, even though it's popular to say "Okay, Boomer." The wealth of information and wisdom we get from people like Arissa, Granny Rainbow, and Chick and Lon and Poke, and the list goes on and on, then into the academic scholars of esotericism. Yeah, we shouldn't write that off, even if some of their views. I was saying this actually in the commentary on the lecture I did today, because I held off on yours, so I can add this to our old part 1 and make it a full length thing for tomorrow. Yeah. So I mentioned that, anyone from the past, these pioneers, let's call them, all of them are going to be seen to have gaps or fallacies, and we'll be seen that same way too. So we shouldn't be too worried about getting everything right. We should just interpret things as best we can in our time and place.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we call in academics the hermeneutic project.
Right. Vision evolves, sound evolves, it all evolves, So
yeah, don't try and extrapolate your views so that they become some eternal principles like Walker Atkinson did with the Kabbalion, because he didn't have a very full understanding of science even at his time, and science changed, and so his principles are not scientific principles.
Correct. I mean, it's like the great breath, right? If it has to rest, it has to contract, it has to flex, it has to do all those things. It's the same with anything else.
Yeah, I think interpretations are much more useful when you interpret for your time and place as best you can.
Certainly more relevant, yeah.
Yeah, don't water them down to try and create universal principles or uncover universal rules, which you're not going to be the arbiter of what's universal. Like, that's something you can maybe see farther by standing on the shoulders of giants, but you are not God. You are not like, David Icke, Jesus returned.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, strange times for control of information and censorship as well.
Oh, yeah. Which, I'm not feeling it too much. I never really leave the house as it is, but I don't really get invested in the media, but in any sense.
Right.
Really.
What do you think about the Pentagon releasing those UFO sightings? Like, that's sort of strange, isn't it?
It's kind of a full circle story for me, because a few years ago when those were released, I was at this strange, what was it, like a squatter house in Ashland, Kentucky, and there was this raving drug addict there, and I think he was doing some serious heroin or something that night. He watched that video and just started screaming at us throughout the house. I don't even know why he was there, but he was terrified. We kind of wrote it off, and now here we are. So, joke's on us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. I'm going to keep, paying attention, but not rush to any judgments. Because, again, how can we know? We don't know. You don't know things until you know them. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Whoa. Spotty for me tonight. Apologize for that.
Spotty? What, the connection?
Yeah, I think it's my own doing over here, but it seems to be fine now.
Okay,
but
good. Good. Yeah, hopefully this recording bounces out into the app.
Yeah, it should be fine. But I was going to mention, speaking of, ETs and all of that, when I used to belong to a psychic church here in Columbus, I won't elaborate on how I got roped into all of that. Needless to say, I got out of it very quickly. But in short, it was kind of like a renegade, very ego-driven spiritualist church that had been going since the turn of the century. But they were very big into extraterrestrials. And we constantly had email updates about the existence of such things and their dealings with the Russians. And yeah, it was kind of fascinating in a way. But considering the source, who knows?
But yeah, it's kind of fascinating. Kind of, yeah. I'm gonna hold off till we know, but I'm more concerned about the technocratic rise of censorship and authoritarianism.
Yeah, that definitely seems like the more local threat. But
yeah, like it's odd. It's odd.
yeah, well, that's what we were kind of discussing, some friends and I. And everyone was saying, "Oh, with this, the pandemic, it's a hoax." So it's like, even if it were, the media has learned that it can instantly, at the drop of a pin, control the lives of everyone. So, whatever the case, it's not good.
It's not. I think we're entering into a very dangerous era.
Yeah. And now, with the microchip plants and all of that coming,
Is that actually coming for us in North America or the Western world?
Well, they're saying that Bill Gates now has that patent out there for the microchip economy, where basically we sell intelligence from our physiology.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There's dark sides to this stuff. But there's also some other inevitable things that maybe are more exciting to think about, like, virtual and augmented reality.
Yes.
That will do some interesting things. I hesitate to call them good, but there will be good and bad. And I was talking just a couple of years ago with my friend, a new friend, and I probably shouldn't say his name because he's sort of sick, he's out there. He was in one of those developmental think tanks in Silicon Valley where they put all these different people in different dorm rooms, and they give them a project, and whoever gets the best project gets funding to build that company, and from Mark Cuban. And so he won, and his business is funded. Provides all-in-one software for nonprofits and charities, so they don't have to have like an ACT database and a website set, all that stuff separate. They just pay $140 a month fee, and they have everything they need to run a nonprofit or a charity or whatever it is.
Wow. All
supplied by his one service, and it was scalable and it was effective. So he got a salary. It's running along just fine, and him and his girlfriend got to flee America when Trump got elected. That was their choice to flee Washington, and she does her own anarchist magazine, or online magazines supporting a lot of controversial information. So she has problems at different borders and was scared to stay in the States, actually.
Yeah.
But he was telling me about these, he gets invited as a result of his funding by Cuban, who he has on his cell phone, and was texting. It was like fucking weird, man. I was like, plus we were doing mushrooms, and he explained simulation theory to me for the first time really well. So to the extent that I started to lose it a little bit, and I was like, and his girlfriend who was watching us all at Devil's Lake, on the riverbed, was like, maybe this is not the good time to show him how realistic and mathematically that and probable that is. And but I was saying, we got these Oculus things, right? How far are we till we're going to have like glasses and just permanently augmented reality? And he's like, one of the guys who I've been working with, he said, and who's been developing this for a long time and already has fully funded from all these angels, is the contacts. Like, the contacts are already in development. The Oculus Rift was just a gap placeholder.
Wow.
Like a way to make, they knew they were just going to make a bunch of money in the years leading up to the glasses and the contacts. So before we know it, there's going to be contacts. And he was explaining, like, you're going to be able to see reality how you want to see reality. If it's elves in fantasy land and Dungeons and Dragons, or like, you could walk, your whole world could become black and white tiled floors, or your room, you could, switch it to that. You could have spirits and assistants in virtual form there all the time, and give them tasks to do that they could then digitally manage and go do that work for you. And that is coming really soon. How crazy is that?
It is crazy, but
we just hit a button, quote unquote button, on our contacts, and then all of a sudden we see all of our other friends and students together in a temple or doing virtual magic, with them seeming to be physically there in a fully decked out temple of any style or format we want. Like, that's coming.
Right. And even if it's only a hollow expression, if we can dare to venture there, it's still fascinating.
But is it going to be hollow, right? Because we'll see. And we already sense these things astrally anyway. I mean, chaos magicians are going to have a field day, but most of us, I think, are going to make use of it to a massive effect.
Yeah.
I just think that's like, virtual schools, showing up virtually through augmented reality. That's a thing. I mean, obviously a lot of people are just going to wander around in porn worlds, but that's
right.
That's always inevitable. Yeah. Roderick also explained to me that the real reality behind the internet being funded by porn and sex, and it wasn't quite clear to me the scale and finance actually that is involved that funded the development of the internet as fast as it did. Right? It's a reality. It's just a truth. That's what a lot of it does and is for. It's crazy.
It certainly sells. Yeah.
But the magic thing is interesting. I think it'd be great. Like, can you imagine if you and me could see each other right now and like we're in robes and nemesis or whatever, we're just going for a walk around Stonehenge?
I do think that'd be fascinating. Be massively convenient too.
Oh yeah.
I wonder though, you always have to wonder about the consequences of that kind of liberty. I don't know.
Back full circle, doesn't it?
Sure does. What happens to value, derived value from anything? And I don't know.
To me, it always indicates that the most important thing that we develop as human beings is our increased sense of responsibility in every regard. Like, we have to learn to be responsible with these freedoms and tools and limitations and abilities that we are developing technologically and societally. We have
take
to
oneself in hand. Yeah, we
have to start being more responsible for our own education and interpretation of things. Like, I always like to say, Eric Heller said, "Be careful how you interpret the world. It really is like that," and we're seeing that revolution come full force on the horizon.
Right, by names and images.
By names and images are all powers awakened and reawakened.
Exactly.
Amen.
I had a young man I worked with years and years ago. He was probably only 18 at the time, and we're from Appalachia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that region of the world.
Oh yeah, I used to do Appalachian fiddle lessons and even hired an Appalachian band on my Midsummer Gulf Islands tour to open for us, for us to open for them instead of us headlining, just so I could be playing Appalachian music while on tour with a Celtic band.
Oh yeah, so that's my world. That's where I come from.
Wow.
And so I was working with this young man who was kind of the typical sort from that area. And we were talking about something. And it got to a point, sure, it was over his head. And he said, "Man, I'm from Kentucky. I don't know nothing about that." And so I was like, "Yeah, but you're an 18-year-old with the internet at your fingertips. You've got it right in your hand right now. There's no excuse. No excuse." But as far as interpreting the world around you and being responsible with that. And then there are people who just seemingly give up on it. They don't even try. And they're led around by the collar by others. So, because he would have believed anything I told him, I think. But lots of people like that.
As you said, very few can resist you. Oh, that's not going away anytime soon.
Oh, I guess not. No, that'll be my new headline. Yeah.
your new Tinder profile quote.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know. You're not on Tinder.
No, it'll instead be none can tolerate him.
None.
And that's fine too.
Nudge. We won't get into that. No, it's I met some new people here last summer at the Oasis who are up in that neck of the woods, the Appalachians and stuff. And one of them owns an occult bookstore who wants my books, and the other one's a really cool person who does a lot of stuff at Burning Man. And I'm starting to build out my connections in the East Coast and the Midwest and the Appalachians, and eventually I'll make my way over there.
Oh, you have to, yeah.
Who knows where I'll end up once I can escape from Sonoma.
You'll have to see West Virginia at some time if you haven't.
Mountain Mama,
it's
take
pretty.
me home. I believe it. Yeah, I'd love to develop my Appalachian banjo picking and fiddling style a bit more. Definitely the singing style. I sang you a glimpse of an Appalachian version and predecessor to an Irish song last time I was listening back. So people hearing now will be like, yeah, I just listened to that. And it's just such a remarkable aspect of language change as well, from those Celtic peoples that went over there and then were isolated and actually hold more of the authentic tradition than developed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, superstition and things like that also, they abound in those regions. And even to this day, I mean, you're surrounded by in those communities. You know, growing up, it was nothing for anyone to be doing ritual, even if they weren't calling it that. Or
Wow. It was nothing, hey? It was de rigueur.
oh my gosh, it was everywhere. Everywhere. I remember one of my good friends, his girlfriend, he was trying to escape. It was a very strange, manipulative situation. She'd actually conned him into the relationship in the beginning by using the old menstrual blood trick in the coffee.
Oh, say more.
Yeah, so they belong to kind of a, I don't want to say hippie, but hippie traveling commune that frequents our area.
As one does.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, you become kind of let in, and then the elders kind of move into your house to kind of help you live better, but then they never leave, and they just take over your house and all of your resources.
Whoa.
That kind of affair, right?
Whoa.
But this woman, yeah, she decided my good friend was for her, so she offered him coffee and slipped menstrual blood into
Now,
it. And
is this blood she stole from a musician or a minstrel?
no, it's from herself.
Oh, and it's called minstrel blood because that's the
Minstrel
spell. Oh, menstrual.
Yes.
Oh Lord, there's some
quite literally. Yeah, that.
Clapping their hands right now.
Right. So she had ensnared him for about 4 years, and I remember when we
That's got to be illegal, right? Giving someone your blood. Like, what if you have a disease?
I mean, if you can approve it, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, what if you get it? Can you get a disease from? Yeah, I think there's a disease out there that comes through the blood, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, if you happen to get it, so.
Jesus Christ.
But when we liberated him, I drove him away, and then it wasn't, I think 2 days later, I woke up and there was a big severed deer leg just on the hood of my car, like a, I know it was you kind of thing.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
But that's commonplace there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh my God, you're melting my head. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I hope you don't cause a new revival of slipping menstrual blood into men's beverages or women's beverages.
Yeah, I hope not either.
People, we do not endorse that practice here.
Yeah, be sensible, be kind, be responsible.
Don't risk killing someone else.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's black magic to do something like that against someone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I usually don't really differentiate, most of us don't really differentiate between black and white magic, but we do differentiate between doing harm and violating someone else's will.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that your higher self could very easily punish you for by withdrawing for the rest of your lifetime, I believe.
Right. I remember stories of that same woman. She would kind of imbue their sheets with sigils, things like that. She would quilt things, but she was very good at knitting and crocheting, and she would do like certain knot patterns. I mean, whatever she was doing, she was good at it.
Oh, God.
So, yeah.
Diabolically good.
Yeah, keep him tethered. But, yeah, I mean, I even found one of my first tarot decks underneath one of my best friend's homes. Her mother had apparently owned it years before and buried it beneath the kitchen cabinetry. Wow. And had her ex-husband's picture in it from a newspaper clipping with his face X'd out and his children X'd out. Some weird note written along with it. So,
wow.
Yeah. But I still have that deck.
Cool.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting relic.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Give me a lot to think about.
Right. Come on down to Appalachia, my friend.
Dear Lord. Well, I've been to Columbus, Ohio. I went there for Origins Convention when I worked for Golden Laurel Entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to set up the booth, host the booth, do all the distributor relations and all that stuff. That was my job for years. So I got to. I didn't go much. I went around Columbus a bit. It was interesting. Like many American cities, I was always surprised to see how empty the downtown core is. Like not people walking around too much, not much foot traffic, just sort of these big ass buildings and empty streets. In Canada, Canadian cities, you see a lot more congestion in the city centers because, well, I don't know, maybe it's because it's cold and people are less spread out.
In Columbus, you'll find all the people in the Short North Arts District. That's where it happens now, and it gets pretty congested down that way. But
we went to a cool underground jazz bar with these beautiful ornate seats and red curtains, sort of like Black Lodge style from Twin Peaks, and this jazz band. And we were with a manufacturer in the States because we were moving our manufacturing from China because they burned us bad. And it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we were moving to an American company. So higher costs, better quality, faster transportation. And, so we got to go out and drink all these $25 cocktails with the manufacturer who picked up the bill and enjoy some nice jazz. So I was like, Columbus is pretty cool to have a place like that. Vancouver's gotten rid of a lot of the places like that by raising property values so high that no musicians can afford to live there anymore. Yeah. So that sucks. Yeah, so it's good to see that Columbus has that sort of musical art scene going on. For now, is that still active? Because this was 2007.
The problem now is that Columbus is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. Yeah, a lot of things are headquartered here now, like Abercrombie and Fitch, and L Brands and all of that. So,
I bet they're still manufacturing in China, aren't they?
We'll have to ask them, I guess, but. Yeah, but so now prices are going up.
Maybe not after the pandemic.
Well,
after this,
we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
yeah. Who's going to want anything made in China soon?
Whatever the truth is about that, too, You
hear about all these people like suing the Chinese government, and like the world might get behind a lawsuit against them. It's like,
no, I actually had not heard about that.
Oh, one of the states launched a huge lawsuit is suing China. And, there's the commentators are going wild about how that would actually go down. But now there's talk from, like, I think United Nations or other major organizations saying, yeah, we need to get reparations from China. And who knows? I mean, that's sort of based on the assumption that they were responsible, or not the assumption, the fact that they were responsible. It's based on a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to. That brings us back to our leaders acting like kindergartners instead of adults.
Lazy performers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, one of the reasons Canada's handling things better, of course, is because of the way our healthcare system is nationalized. There's no debate between hospitals when orders are given to do this or to do that. Plus, Canada has had a quarantine bill or a law in existence this whole time. And so a lawyer was referring to it in Montreal. And he's like, wait, what? We have what? And then he went through. He's like, yeah, apparently we've had this forever. And it allows the government to turn anyone's domicile, private home, or any building whatsoever into a quarantine zone or a medical site with or without compensation. I mean, that's Canadian democratic socialism for you, right? But you could also see it as capitalism that just cares about certain things. That's how I like to think of it, because a lot of these European countries like Denmark and Canada, we're capitalist countries. It's laissez-faire capitalism that allowed us to be successful and thrive, not socialism. But look at us as capitalist countries that simply say, by the way, we care about education and healthcare. That's just a priority. So we're going to put 40% of our gross domestic national product, or whatever it's called, GDPI, or whatever it's called, into education and healthcare. Now, we don't do it for education in Canada at all, and definitely not anymore. They fucked us on that. But, that's just our priority. America could say, hey, we're laissez-faire capitalism for sure. Be great to get rid of the cronyism, right? And then say, and in our view of the world, though, we're going to value education and healthcare. Like, you can just make that. It doesn't make it socialist to say these are our values. Right? You know what I mean? It's just it's how you think about it, actually.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this brings us to how we name things, how we interpret things, and how we agree upon different labels, right? If we change the labels or names for things, we can really affect how they're facilitated in
Right.
manifestation. And I'm thinking very
Right,
magically here,
and then
of
we also have
course.
to consider, you know, we live in nations of, well, majority of uninitiated people. That's gone from the culture mostly. So people barely have a grasp on themselves, and now they're expected to have a grasp on the world around them. And it's a strange situation.
Yeah.
Strange situation.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about all those people who are bored and losing their minds?
Bored and losing their minds. You know, I've thought about this a while because a lot of people talk to me about this, and they do. I've had a lot of folks reaching out and kind of asking what I've been up to during it, because, you know, I'm still putting things out. I'm still making things. I'm still doing this. And, you know, I haven't slowed down, and I find no reason to slow down.
You've probably
I have more time
like
now than ever to really focus on what I want to do. And
well, my Patreon's just suspended, is not allowing me to get paid anymore. They're allowing me to keep creating content for my maxed out 10 students, which is really the most I can do attention to. And they're allowing me to keep functioning and producing content. They'll keep charging them, but I won't get paid anymore. So I think Patreon's decided, we still want you to do the work. We still want your people to pay, but we really need the money. So maybe we'll just keep that money from you, and you can just keep doing it.
Is that not a violation of the agreement? It has to be.
I guess they have loopholes, but what would you do if your boss says, hey, we really appreciate all the work you do, but we need more money, so we're just going to keep your
But
salary.
You're still going to work here too.
Yeah, you're crucial. We need you to work here so we can keep your money. If you don't work here, we can't keep your money.
Little unlawful,
right?
I think.
That
doesn't really. Yeah, no.
Right. So I may have to create a membership site, but that's a fuck ton of work. I know how to do it. It's just a ton of work, and it opens the door to some other problems as well that can happen. It's a complex issue that, unfortunately, I don't know. Part of me thinks I should just be able to find a lawyer who'd be like, hey, what's going on? And then maybe they'd see a quick little settlement possibility. Like, hey, here's a letter to Patreon. You guys should settle this ASAP because you
then I wonder how much money that will run you, though.
Well, no, if a good lawyer who knows their shit can look at a situation, outline that situation to the person, to the company, and be like, you fucked up. This is what we could do. Here's the settlement we're willing to accept. I think that's possible. That would be a good thing to do, because I've spent years building it up just to find the right sort of group of people. I've had to block some people who were screenshotting my work and uploading it and sending around, of course, or passing off my personal information to, Griffin and other competitors. And so that's been challenging, but it's years of my time essentially put into it. And then they cut me off when I went to withdraw my monthly money, which I needed for fucking food and medicine, And they're like, sorry, we know it's a bad time. However, it's criminal. It's definitely criminal. So there's a reason a lot of people walked out on Patreon.
Yeah, I gave up on mine about 1.5 years ago, I think. Now I can't really remember how long ago that was, but
that was partly just because you were sort of done with doing the work you were doing, right?
Well, it was, but it also,
even
whatever little profit I might have generated, it was exhausted by the shipping costs, because, as luck would have it, every patron was international. Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. I guess you could say about yourself, I'm big in Europe, or I'm big internationally.
I don't know, but it's kind of funny. I might have generated $100 a month, and about $90 of that went to shipping costs. So,
Yo, wow.
Yeah.
Ouch. Well, thank you for your service.
Right.
Jeez. You should have included shipping in the
I was rather naive about that, and you are correct. Yeah.
Oh, I fucked up big time in that way. And then, it was when I tried to fix that for my clients and customers that the cloning of my accounts and hacking, there's still the clone of my Instagram Frater R.C. That clone is still up there, and they can still contact people. And if people don't go to check the account,
that
they think it's
confused
from
me for a long time.
Well, I complained, and they shadow banned my esoteric ebooks account, which is why for the last 2.5 years it's been locked at 6,000 and can't go higher than I can't reach 7. It's locked. It's locked. I was getting hundreds of followers a day, and it's just completely shadow banned. It's not showed very often. It removes. It has an algorithm that cross sections people who don't check in on it, and so the least checkers in on it as cross sectioned with the people who don't naturally see it in their news feeds due to them restraining it in the news feeds, and then they delete those people without even knowing it from it to keep my followers down. And that's how that works. It took a while for someone to explain that to me, how shadow banning works. The Frater R.C. one still can slowly climb up, but again, they're not recommending my feed very much and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's not because I've done anything wrong. It's just due to mob flagging. You can go on to Fiverr.com. I shouldn't say this, but this is how it's done. You can go to Fiverr.com, pay someone in India at a farm, at a computer farm, to like generate all these mob flags and destroy someone's account. And they just give priority to the majority. Like if the majority of people say this, then that's what they go with. It's sinister, and it's deplatforming is a serious thing. Especially in a day and age when you're essentially erasing someone from life.
Yeah, it's all too easy anymore. But
so I'm really grateful. Shout out to all my fans, followers, and students who have been giving extra support to and encouragement to like really go more independent, do membership sites, stuff like that, and just sort of do what I can to keep doing persist. It. I'll reevaluate early next year, and I'll be also, of course, very busy with the full development of the Order of Celtic Mysteries and doing the first initiation later on next year, halfway through next year, for everyone who wants to go through the Yates system. We'll do one initiation a year. We'll do initiation twice on the weekend, once straight and once using the very legal in Canada substances like peyote, which Yates was a fan of, along with hashish. So you could go through the initiation straight once, and then you could also go through it, with peyote and or hashish or a substance. And I think that having both those options doing both of them might be a very appealing thing to some people. As we know, plant medicines have been redacted from history. Everything from the acacia leaves and the DMT and the Holy of Holies done by the ancient Hebrew priests, and all the way up through the use of psilocybin by John Dee and Edward Kelly, which was really a fundamental bedrock in their Enochian magic.
Right.
Crazy, right? I mean, we've just redacted drugs from history and saying just say no while encouraging people to pop pills and Ritalin and all these other meth pills and all this shit that so I don't believe in drugs. Well, you're popping all these pills from 3 different doctors.
It is.
It's insane, isn't it? And whereas like last night, after another long productive day, you know what I did? I smoked a joint, and rewatched Iron Man 3, and then most of Winter Soldier, and I was so relaxed. I was just zoomed out of my mind on this, on the cannabis, and it was just like so relaxing, and I was laughing and happy, and it's just like way better than like when doctors gave me morphine for an injury or shit like that. That stuff just fucked me up for years. Or like just taking one course of morphine had me suicidal. I mean, it's a prescribed paralysis
in so many ways. It really is.
Dear God, right? Like seriously, if there's a plant that can do that, like shit.
Well, my friend, I do unfortunately have to get going.
Yeah, can you leave us with a little last bit of magical wisdom or insight or advice for those who are self-initiates or members of a system, or just ardently trying to follow their spiritual path, especially in these very tough times of COVID?
As far as self-initiation goes, the key thing is patience. I think a lot of people want to rush the process because it's right there in front of you. It's all there in this book that's so friendly and accessible. You really have to take your time with each of the grades. I spent 9 months in preparation for the first one, and even though I could have proceeded on to the next one right away, I waited another long period of time, and I saw a lot of benefit from it. You're not done transforming ever, and especially not between them, so take your time.
All right. Well, thank you. And folks, listen to the words of Frater IPAF, or Chris Winters, as he's popularly known, at this occult life, at this _ occult _ life, correct? So check out his amazing work, his amazing art, his amazing humanity. And remember, if in doubt, no one can resist him. All right, brother. Thanks for coming on and doing this part 2 from Berlin to California, and who knows where we'll be for part 3 next time. We'll have to catch up, and yeah, it's great being it's great just being in the States
Right.
and be able to text you back and forth.
Well,
here.
it's always a pleasure.
It's really nice,
That's
I think
right.
it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You-
All right, brother. Have a wonderful evening, because it's like 10 at night for you now. No? Hello? Oh, I think I lost you. Okay, that's it, folks. Have a great evening.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably been hearing a lot about the stock market lately. Millions of people are beginning to invest for the first time ever. And we're realizing that the financial system should be built to work for us. That's why Robinhood is creating real human education resources, truly digestible financial news, and a platform that lets you invest in your own way, on your own terms. The next generation of investors is already here, and it includes you. Robinhood. Investing is risky. Robinhood Financial, LLC.
Discover the new 3-Step Pro Partial range, specifically designed to clean your partials and remaining teeth in 3 simple steps. Clean your partial, strengthen your natural teeth, protect your whole mouth. Stand up to further tooth loss with Polident Pro Partial. Available at Walmart.